Welcome to the Vault Excel. This commentary is pertaining to a 23-year-old African-American male who was convicted of murdering his parents in Texas. Now, this verdict came about 2 weeks ago, and it is the latest topic in breaking news. To this day, his family, some of his family members, believed someone else committed the crime. It has been introduced that possibly his older brother committed the crime, a mentally ill young male, schizophrenic, had mental issues, problems, hallucinations. Did the older brother do it? Was he in the house that night? Did somebody else break into the home? But there's evidence that shows that no one else was in the house but LJ and the sister, the younger sister. That the alarm did not sound of anyone coming in or going out of the house. It is also alleged that the alarm system had at least 77 discrepancies, mishaps. Is that true? Is it possible that someone entered the home, killed this Black man and Black woman in their bed, shot them to death, and then exited out of the house without sounding the alarm to enter or to exit? No signs that any lines were cut, breaking or entering, jimmying of a door or a window, in or out. Once again, only leaving LJ and the sister. The defense entered in the older brother as a possible suspect, which is a low blow. But if you believe that LJ didn't do it, maybe you don't mind saying or hearing the older brother did it. This is a very baffling story. A story of a 16-year-old at the time of the murders, being accused of killing his parents, having disagreements about his grades, failing school, being disrespectful with his automobile, and possibly the parents threatened to not help him anymore. There are also text messages that are being revealed, have been revealed between the mother and the son. He wrote the parents a letter about his behavior that really there wasn't an excuse he could give that would make a difference. So is it at this point when he wrote this letter to the parents, he decided, I'm not going to be the big guy on campus anymore. I'm not going to get help from these people, my parents. So I'm going to kill them. What was the motive? I always tell you to not ask why a person committed a crime. I always tell you to ask why not. Because that's how the killer thinks. The killer doesn't think like a normal person would think. Why? He or she asks, why not? Why not kill them? Because in their head, they have a motive and a reason for the crime. And if we are to believe that LJ killed his parents, his thought process was, why not? They're aggravated with me. I'm a disappointment to them. I have let them down. I'm not going to be getting any help. I'm going to now have to do things on my own financially. They may want me to get out of their house, get a job, work. I'm not ready to be independent. Well, we won't say get out of the house because he was 16. But perhaps they would want him to work, do some things. And when you say something about failing grades, did he actually fail most of his courses? I don't know. That's kind of a strange information I got. Because when you say he was 16, and then you say he's failing out of school, one would wonder, did he drop out of school because of his grades, or he was kicked out of school? When I get information to that, I will bring it to you. But I'm going to mention my poll that I put on the community page for you all to take, and I'm going to read you the results. But before I do that, I want to let you know of some breaking news. The First Lady, Miss Biden, has contracted COVID, so my prayers are with her and all of the staff, because right now there is an uptick of COVID. For those of you who did not know, I've been hearing it here in the general area of Knoxville, Tennessee, that COVID is back up. Statistics are back up, cases are back up. So please be aware of your surroundings. And they're also mentioning perhaps us going back to wearing masks. And we can also dissect that at another time. Do you think we need to go back to wearing masks pertaining to COVID? It had already been mentioned by Mr. Fauci that it wasn't going anywhere. Even when the stats went down a year or two ago, that COVID will be around for at least 3 years. Well, we're at that mark now. We're at the 3-year mark. And I think what it has done is, like most diseases, it is just mutating into different variances of the COVID. Once again, First Lady Biden has contracted COVID. Next set of breaking news, because there is so many. Court TV has just released commentary an hour ago that the clerk of court tampered with the Murdaugh jury. Now, what does that mean? Is it a man or a woman? And what has he or she done? Did they say something to one of the jury members? Did they give out any type of information that they weren't supposed to? Repeated something that was privy and private, or something that was going to be coming up in the trial mentioned? What did the clerk do to the jury? This is very interesting information. Also, on my community page, I just posted a photograph of an angle grinder. For those who do not know what it is, I didn't know what it was, but a story has been released, Florida News, of a man who murdered his 16-year-old son with an angle grinder. So naturally, I Googled, and I didn't like what I saw. And just the fact of knowing someone killed their own child with this vicious weapon. It is a tool used for buffering items, and it has a blade on it. So as the sheriff said, I'm not getting ready to describe the crime scene. I'll do that at a later date, of course, because naturally people are curious of what an angle grinder is, what it does, and the fact that this man used it on his child. This man has been in trouble before with the law. He's been hopping from state to state, moving around. He has a warrant out of, I believe, South Carolina, probably, a misdemeanor, nothing major. I think it was something about disorderly conduct or resisting arrest. But nonetheless, whether he never came to Florida or not, he has the propensity to kill. And that's what he has done. So that's what you always have to remember. Misdemeanor or not, that's irrelevant at this point, because he now has murdered his son. And if you need information pertaining to that, it's breaking news. It is also in the YouTube queue and on my community board. I also found a story very interesting out of Maple Heights. I believe this is in Ohio. A brother kills his pregnant sister, unborn baby that the mother was carrying, the sister, and her husband. Something happened terrible yesterday at a park in Maple Heights. A disagreement, long-standing feud is what has been said between the sister and the brother. Do not know what they had going on, but it should have never led to murder. And now a woman and her child and her husband are deceased. And to show you how calculating this brother was in getting rid of these people, he chased the husband down into a public restroom and murdered him there. And thanks to good Samaritan citizens, they were able to describe what took place at this park, this Labor Day function, and he was apprehended. Very scary information. Miriam Silla, a story that's also been in the news, was dismembered. She was a Maryland teacher, and a man has been charged with her murder. I believe she's an African lady, African descent, school teacher here in the United States, and is a Caucasian male who has been arrested for murdering her. And it has come to light that she did not know he and he did not know she. And her last whereabouts was at a park walking. So we have to use deduction that he was out hunting someone, stumbled across this teacher, and assumingly abducted her, had his way with her, and then dismembered her and discarded her on the side of the road. And when they show you the area where she was found, her remains discovered by a civilian, it shows he had no regard for her. Now, has he been in trouble before? Any other violent offenses? I do not know. But when I get an update, I will post it to my community board, and I may also do a video. Thank you all so much for joining me. We live in a sick world, and the crime is just continuing to go on and on, whether the people are mentally ill, just plain evil, under the influence of narcotics, alcoholics, whatever their problems are. 9 times out of 10, it should never result in murder. And the story of Lennon Latham is also breaking news. And he was murdered by his friend in Florida. And his mother, many people are probably talking about her Facebook or Facebook post where she's going off on this young man and his parents for the murder of her son, as she should. Because this young boy trusted this boy as a friend. They've spent time with each other in each other's homes and activities and trips. And how did it come to be that this African-American boy is found dead in a pond, and you as a friend would play mind games with his mother, saying that he was in the restroom, when all along the mother was tracking his phone, and she decided to film the car movement, which shows just the boy driving the car, and her son is nowhere to be found. And then the boy goes and gets his parents, I guess, to try to divert his guilt. This is why it is a good idea to have access to your children's whereabouts on their phone, where you can track them in case something happens. It can be of use to authorities. And due to the fact that this lady had the gut instinct that something was wrong with her child, he had not met his 12 o'clock curfew, her instinct was to get up and inquire. And that's what led to her finding out about the car movement and the phone and the boy being behind the wheel of the car, minus her son. Very disturbing case. Another case, 5 days ago. An African-American boy collapses during a PE class in Lake Elsinore, this is in California, where he was telling the teacher he was not feeling well. And that was his punishment, to run because he had not brought appropriate clothes for gym. I'm assuming there will be a very hefty lawsuit by the parents against the school board and this teacher. Because my thought would be, as a teacher, if a child has come to class and not prepared with appropriate clothing, he or she would not be participating in gym. Why would I make a child go run out in the sweltering heat in their street clothes, knowing they don't have on running attire? So this teacher needs his or her ass whipped. Yeah, I said that. You know better. And you were being a nasty bird by asking this child, or commanding this child rather, to go run out on a track or however it is in their street clothes, and now he's dead. And they said the child was reaching out, saying he was not feeling well and gasping for air. So you watched the child die under your command. And you need to be fired. And you also need to be jailed for murder, because you knew better. Oh, mercy. L.J. Armstrong. I've posted a lot of information to my community page pertaining to this young man who is now 23 years of age. He has a small toddler child, and now he will be incarcerated for 40 years for the murders of his parents. And when you look at that time, 40 years is nothing. That's just what? 20 years per person to deliberately murder a human being and your parent. What is 20 years for a concocted crime? Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. Let's go back and dissect this storyline. This is a storyline that's been running 7 years strong. He committed this crime allegedly when he was 16. This is a 7-year debacle of going to trial, hung juries, couldn't make decisions, 3 trials. And on the 3rd time, the state was able to convince 12 members of a jury that he did indeed kill his parents. He has support from his family that he did not do it. He doesn't have the capability of doing it. You will hear from his defense attorneys that he is kind and mannerable. And when you talk to him, you won't get the sense that he's this type of person. But that's the whole point about murder. Who is the type to murder? It's easy to say he's the type, she's the type. Boy, but we have seen with murder, many people who have murdered weren't the type. She was quiet. He was quiet. He was mild-mannered. He never been in trouble, never broke the law, doesn't have a criminal background. How many people have that MO and is now in prison for murder? Many. It's not always the loudmouth, the rambunctious type, the troublemaker, the wayward kid / wayward adult. It could be the mild-mannered school teacher, mild-mannered doctor, mild-mannered housewife who just decided to say, the hell with it. Because a lot of the crimes you hear today are just that. Somebody said, the hell with it. I no longer want to engage as a parent, a sister, a brother, a friend, a co-worker. I'm sick of your ass and I want to exterminate you. And I believe that's what happened here with Mr. L.J. Armstrong. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Big Angie 129 Cash App, stickers and chats are welcome during the live. Let's dissect this debacle that went on for 7 years of 3 trials. And on the last trial, which was 2 weeks ago, 12 members of a jury said L.J. Armstrong is guilty of murdering his parents. Thank you for joining me. Evidence was brought forward in this trial pertaining to blood spatter. How is it that there was blood on the shirt 3 trials later and no one found it in the beginning? I find this very strange because 9 times out of 10, all the evidence was gathered pertaining to the parents and the crime scene before gathering LJ's clothes or what he was wearing or what they could have found in the house. So how is it blood is just now being introduced into a trial? His family is saying that this police department is grimy and they have been involved in nefarious deeds, in crimes, planting evidence. Did this police department plant evidence of the father's blood onto LJ's shirt to help get him convicted in this last murder trial? Because I find that very strange that this wouldn't have been evidence found day one. But they say that the blood spatter was a tape, police tape was covering the blood spatter, and possibly that's why I guess the state or whomever didn't see the spots on his shirt. So then we have to ask, well, where were the spots? At the bottom of the shirt, top of the shirt, the sleeve, where? And it has also been said he never went in the room to see that his parents were murdered because he killed them, says the state. So how would there be blood spatter of his father a likely match on his clothing. So we have to also ask the clothing where these spots were on, blood spatter, is the shirt he was actually wearing at the time police entered the house. Was there somebody else in the house besides LJ and the younger sister, the older brother, somebody else? Was there a defect with the alarm system that somebody easily came in, bypassed the alarm, and exited, bypassing the alarm? Allegedly shot through the floor from his bedroom. He was on the 3rd floor of the home, had a bedroom, lied, shot through the floor. Finally admitted that, yes, he had access to a gun earlier than he had said in deposition to the police. Covered it up. Why didn't the parents notice a bullet hole in their ceiling? Very strange information. Let's dissect this. Did A.J. Armstrong murder his parents? 45% of you said yes. 11% of you said no. And 45% of you said not sure out of 38 votes. This was uploaded 2 weeks ago. KPRC2 Click 2 Houston is the source of this information. Thank you for joining me. Please follow KPRC2 Click 2 Houston News. They have been giving up-to-date commentary pertaining to this guilty verdict and the evidence entered into court and new evidence of the blood spatter on his shirt. And it's up to you to decide if indeed the jury got it right or the jury got it wrong. And if they got it wrong, then that means a killer is out here walking free. And who might that person be? We also got new information that the father had nefarious dealings with another black man and that perhaps some other people could be responsible for the death of the father and the wife. Is that true? See, this goes back to what I've always said. You do not know people. Because now that you're finding out that the husband was involved in some nefarious business, allegedly, then you didn't know your son. The wife didn't know her husband. And possibly nobody knew the son that is allegedly accused of killing the parents. What is the truth? Let's get to it. Thank you, baby.
Good evening from the Courthouse Square in downtown Houston. Joel, Brian, Real Juan, we are the bench this evening, and it was a big day in the 3rd trial for A.J. Armstrong, found guilty, convicted of murder just a few hours ago. We want to talk about it. And that came in, after how many hours of deliberation? They just got the case yesterday of Real Juan.
Jury deliberated roughly 10 hours in total between yesterday and today. Yesterday, it was in their hands around 1:40. They wrapped up the day at 7:06 yesterday, and they started promptly at 9:30 this morning, I'm told. And as we know, they continued through lunch, and then around
they asked to continue through lunch.
That's true, yeah.
That was the first indicator, I think, that they were going to come up with something today.
Then shortly after that, just before 2 o'clock, we hear a ringing in the courtroom. Initially, we all thought maybe it was a question. Then once I saw more deputies walking in, we were all kind of realization this is the verdict.
Let's talk about the reaction. Real Juan, you were in the courtroom that very moment. What did you see on AJ's face when that verdict was read?
So I'll say this first, preface it with this. AJ was behind us, right. So I didn't see him directly, but there were points where I glanced at him, I could see him. I didn't see any emotions from him at that point. What did happen as soon as the judge said guilty, his wife, Kate, who was sitting in there, immediately started bawling. She hunched over and her arm was crying, and her mom sitting next to her, consoling her. And then as soon as they left, that's when she audibly just started bawling.
The entire family left without comment, really. They didn't stop to talk to reporters. They are said to be completely devastated. Each and every one of them was on AJ's side throughout the entire trial. In fact, throughout the last 7 years, I would say. Brian Wise, KPRC2's legal analyst, is here. You were in the courtroom as well. What are your takeaways from the verdict?
I think I actually had a somewhat better vantage point when it came to looking at the defendant. And not surprisingly, no reaction at all. Having done this for 45 years, that's not at all strange, because your typical defendant, knowing that he's going to spend the better part of his adult life as a ward of the prison, is in a state of shock. And one of the many...
Was it a state of shock, or he expected that he would be found guilty? Which is it? Is it perhaps LJ has no emotions, he has no empathy? Because in order to murder your parents, let's keep it real, no matter what type of parents you have, your perception of them, to murder them in cold blood, you have no empathy. So the fact that he was married, because I couldn't remember if he was married or not. I knew he had a baby, a child and a girlfriend, but obviously he was married to a Caucasian female. How are you somebody's father? Stay woke, everybody. If we are to believe that this man killed his parents in cold blood 7 years ago, how in the world could you, one, have a relationship with another human being? Number two, procreate and have a child, rear a child. Look at your child who is a product of you, product of your parents' DNA. How can you rear a child and you have murdered your own mother and father? Both biological parents. Both created you. 3 trials. Trial number 3, they said guilty. How could this man have a relationship, be married, procreate, and still stand before the public and say, I did not kill my parents? He has never shown any emotion except for when the cameras are rolling, from what I have seen in the past couple of days of researching this story. Let me say that again. The only time I have seen him cry is when he was in front of a news camera. When you hear the 911 call, you do not hear a person that sounds frantic for himself, his safety, or the safety of his sister. You do not hear that he bawled, fell out, passed out, like his brother, who they said was very upset and erratic. That's the normal response. The one that's allegedly crazy, schizophrenic, and could have also killed the father and mother, stepfather and mother. Now, the older son is not a biological child of the deceased father, but of the mother. He's from an outside relationship. The 2 remaining children belong to the mother and the father, Mr. LJ and the younger sister. No emotion, no emotion. And you hear this expert saying, well, that's expected. Defendant's not showing any emotion. Well, we have seen many fall out, shout, scream, jump up, holler, such as Krista Pike, when you go back in time and you look at her past experiences with the judge. Oh, she showed out. That's because I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to die in there. And Krista Pike has been sentenced to death here in the state of Tennessee for the brutal murder of Miss Slimmer. And now the courts are fighting that. Her defense attorneys are fighting, because we have a new law saying children should not face death for murdering another person. Did he kill his parents? And why has he not shown any emotion? Only crying when the cameras are on.
Is in a state of shock. And one of the many things that law school doesn't teach us, and believe me, it fails to teach us much more than we need to know, is how to deal with a defendant, how to deal with the family, how to let them know that the unthinkable is going to come to pass. I think, like we were talking about on the hallway, I'm sure last night, AJ and his wife went to dinner and walked into the Harris County Criminal Justice Center through the front door, and is leaving tonight through the back door with the bailiffs. There is no way that I can quantify what that is like for any defendant, particularly one who's 23, not to mention the incredible consequential toll that it's going to take on his family, guys.
And he is the father of a young child.
He's a father of a young child and married. Let's talk about the female. What would possess you to date a man who has been accused of killing his parents? Now, Queen has decided to go into the belly of the beast. You see, because it's always deeper than just the crime itself and the participants who have been accused of the crime and the verdict. What about the person who is entangled with the defendant? Amen. You have laid down with an alleged killer, ma'am. You have procreated a whole boy child with a killer, ma'am. Why? Imagine their conversations beforehand. Did they make love before he went to court? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because naturally, I'm assuming he was free. So you'll wonder, in the months or however long it took for this verdict to come down, how many times they kissed and hugged and made love, and she told him it's going to be okay, and he told her it's going to be okay. I want you to think about that for just a second. His reaction and responses to his child in this trying time. What was his conversations like to his toddler child? What did he say to his child? What did he say to his other family members? What did they say to him? Oh, it's going to be okay. They're not going to convict you this time either. You'll be free. The state let it be known. We're going to keep trying them until we get a guilty verdict, expensive as it is. He killed his parents. So rightfully so, we will seek justice for his parents because they're not here to defend themselves. Exactly.
He's a married man himself now. The crimes were committed back in 2016 when he was just 16 years old. And so 7 years have passed since then, and he will be spending the night in custody. Let's talk real quickly. We're going to talk about all the reaction in just a second. They're yelling in my ear, but here's what I want to hash out real quickly is the sentence. What happens now? How long does he have to spend as a minimum before he's eligible for parole? It's a capital murder conviction.
And this defendant ought to feel fortunate that the law changed insofar as the maximum possible punishment for juveniles, because back in the day, juveniles convicted of capital murder in some states were getting life without parole. There were juvie lifers in the parlance of TDCJ. When the law changed, this defendant will have to spend 40 calendar years, day for day, before he even takes a peek at the parole board.
Real one, that would make it.
So this law obviously must be a law for all 50 states, as you hear, because we do have this law here in Tennessee. So obviously, if this is Supreme Court, then it is a mandatory law statewide, not just one place, but all states. So this law has been applied to Krista Pike, who is trying to get off of the death row docket. Okay, the death row docket. She's trying to get off of that. Her defense attorneys trying to get her to have life, I guess, because she's also sentenced to die here in Tennessee. And you're talking about almost 30 years of her being on death row. Many people waiting for her to die. So as you hear this story of a black kid at the time, he now is only getting 40 years because the law has changed in the United States pertaining to children facing life without parole and also death for murder. Do you agree? What is the appropriate age to say the child should get life or death? Because now it's been disbanded. Many experts will say, well, their mindset is of a child. 16-year-old has a child's mind. An 18-year-old has a child's mind. So you can't give them life without parole. You can't give them death because they still have a child's mind. But let's keep it real. 16, 18, you know right from wrong. Whether you adhere to right or wrong is up to you. How you were reared, yes, will play a part into your mindset and how you navigate as a teenager, but you can't tell us a 16-year-old doesn't know he or she should not be murdering a person, beating a person to death, shooting their parents. Come on now. 16 years old, you murdered two people who are biologically related to you, and you want us to believe he was so diminished, he had no idea what he was doing. Same for Krista Pike. Beat a girl to death, carved a pentagram in her chest, and held on to chunks of her skull. She didn't know what she was doing either. She was physically abused, raped as a child. So what does that have to do with her killing this white girl? Nothing. All of a boy. Her liking a boy or wanting to have sex with a boy, however it went. And then another black girl she was there present too and turned state's evidence and only got 6 years probation, which we think was very, very wrong. I do anyway. Because if you were there when she was to hit her in the face, body, you were 9 times out of 10 there up until the very end of Miss Slimmer's death. And we're talking about 18-year-olds. 2 years older than Mr. Armstrong was when he was 16 and killed his parents. Did the Supreme Court get it right by saying children should not get life in prison, no chance of parole, and or death, should not face the death penalty? That will be my next poll on my community page.
Get the parole board.
That would make him about 63 years old.
63 years old. His son will likely be in his 40s or so at that age. So that's probably why, obviously, the family, incredibly emotional. That's not what they wanted to hear. And so when it broke down in that way, a lot of them did leave the courtroom. Some of them stayed. I looked at the grandparents who were sitting in the back. They just kind of sat there, just kind of processing everything that happened and just trying to see what the next 40 years will look like for them.
Well, it's hard to imagine, I'm sure, for that family. We want to talk about other reaction to this case, and the first is from the family itself. As I said, they did not stop to talk to reporters and photographers as they headed out of the courtroom. In fact, some of the members of the family used that sort of side judge's preference entrance. They were allowed to use that. But we do have a statement from the family. It's at least a statement from the great uncle. This is AJ's great uncle, who we've had on the bench before. This is Harvey Armstrong. It does have some profanities in it. When you hear me say the word blank, that's where the profanities were. We've replaced them with the word blank. And here it goes. This is the quote from great uncle Harvey Armstrong representing the family. Quote, "This blank is blanked up, and you can quote me on that. This is not right. I am not sitting down on this. We and I will fight this verdict. This kid is innocent. This hurts." And in fact, they have already filed an appeal. Has Rick Toto done that already?
Yeah.
He has filed written notice of appeal, which has to be done within 30 days of the sentence being pronounced. It's a practical matter. I think our viewers need to understand something. The harsh reality of the appellate process, something that I've been doing for literally 45 years, is that your typical defendant has around a 5% chance of success of winning his first appeal.
5% chance of winning an appeal. You hear this great uncle speaking, Mr. Harvey Armstrong. He has given a written statement saying that this SHIT is effed up. And they're standing on this, he and the family, that this is wrong, this conviction of their family member. Well, Mr. Harvey, let me talk to you for just a second. And you and your relatives, the grandparents, because one of the grandmothers has been very vocal, the father's mother, the dead father's mother. Mr. Harvey and grandmama and everybody else, did you all not pay attention to the evidence in court pertaining to the ADT? So you want us to believe that this ADT system had all these discrepancies. So then you have to question your own child and his wife's decision to continuously deal with ADT, knowing that this alarm had discrepancies. So why would I continue to pay a bill to ADT knowing it's not accurately reporting information and sounds in the house This makes no sense to me. I live in a nice home and I have a security system that is not properly working. And I'm going to continuously pay ADT money when I'm noticing something wrong with the system. Ask yourself, why would your son do that? Please answer. Give us a sound answer. Because we did not hear that the parents discontinued their service with ADT, went and got another alarm company to monitor the house. So explain why these two grown people would continue to pay a company money for a dysfunctional alarm system. I'll wait. The alarm showed movement throughout the house. Okay? Throughout the house, it shows movement, which coincides with him moving through the house as he's killing these people. Probably removing evidence, cleaning up evidence. And you don't believe that either. So ADT got it right that somebody was moving through the house before the deaths of the parents and thereafter. But ADT got it wrong when it comes to the alarm never sounding for the perpetrator to enter the house and exit the house. Is that what you're saying to us? So I'm going to say this one more time. Why would this couple pay ADT money knowing the system was fractured? Why would I pay you money and I'm noticing discrepancies with the system? I'm entering my house, putting in the code, and the alarm don't sound. I'm exiting the house, setting the code, the alarm don't sound or beep. Wouldn't I call ADT to say, hey, there's something wrong. I need a technician out here to test the system and the sensors on the doors, the doorways, and the movement throughout the house? Why would I keep paying you money? Is it true that this ADT had 77 or so discrepancies? And why can't this family accept the findings brought forward in court? Let me tell you what I think. The reason he was able to bypass 2 of trials and not be found guilty. Because perhaps nobody wanted to believe this 16-year-old mild-mannered kid who hasn't been in trouble killed his parents. His parents were upstanding citizens. The father, ex-NFL football player, known in the community. He and the mother owned I believe it's a gym and other ventures. They weren't known to be in trouble with the law or causing a ruckus in the community. They all talked eloquently, as you will hear the son speak very fine English, which is very rare for our youth. So when you hear him talk, yes, I'm going to go there. You're not expecting this kid to be a killer because he isn't using slang when he speaks. He uses very proper English. And then that's something you don't hear a lot with African-American people. Not that we're not educated, skilled in speaking, but it's a rarity. But we do know there are educated Black folks, Hispanic folks, so on and so forth, that do know how to speak correct English. But when you look at his demeanor, how he carries himself, people vouching for his character, that would make some people say, I don't know. So in trial number 1, I believe it was 8-4 to convict. Then it was backwards, second trial. More thought he was innocent, less thought he was guilty. Now, trial number 3, bingo card. We think he's guilty. Interesting how this man has gone before an array of citizens, and each trial had a different variance of guilt versus innocence. Isn't that interesting? I think they took this trial outside of the Houston area. And look what happened. Guilty, guilty. Did he kill his parents? And if he did kill the parents, what was the motive? Did he get mistrials the last 2 times because people thought it could have been the older brother or somebody else? And that evidence wasn't introduced into court of the somebody else, which is some shady business partners that the father was engaged in. Did the jury get it wrong? This young man didn't kill his parents, but another outside person did it, including his brother or somebody else. And there was also a break-in in the gym after the murders of the parents. Does that have something to do with the murder? This break-in, you will see surveillance of people stooping down, going through drawers, which I found very interesting as well. Could it be this boy paid some people to go break in the gym because he wanted it to look like somebody else killed his parents? Stay woke, everybody. If indeed he did kill his parents, how long was he seething and plotting the deaths of his parents? Does he have any remorse that he has murdered his parents? Because as I said, the only time you see him cry is when a news camera is rolling.
Success of winning his first appeal. And it's not because of anything other than the fact that there's so few things that can go wrong, so few things that impact the integrity and the fundamental fairness of the trial, that ultimately an appellate court's going to say, you get a new trial.
All right, let's head into the courtroom, at least earlier today, where Rick DeToto, or this is outside, this is just after the verdict, right? And this is sound from Rick DeToto. He gave a sort of impromptu press conference right after the verdict was read. Let's listen in.
Rick, any words you'd like to say to us?
You can ask me questions.
How do you feel? 7 years you've been on this since the trial one. This is obviously the decision you don't want to hear. How do you all feel right now?
It's absolutely devastating. AJ is grown up with us. As I said in my closing, over the last 7 years, we've seen him grown up from a 16-year-old to a young man, father, husband. It's devastating. But when the district attorney's office has the power to continue to retry cases, financially devastate the family, those are things that's hard to overcome on a third trial.
Will you represent him on an appeal?
I will not.
Why is that?
I don't do appeals.
Is he planning to appeal?
He's already filed notice of appeal.
Is that an automatic notice or?
He's already filed notice of appeal.
What did AJ say to you?
Obviously, my conversations with my client are confidential. He's devastated, but he's one of the strongest young men I've ever known, and his family is amazing. And obviously, they're devastated right now, and this is a difficult time for them. But they will rally, and they will, help AJ and his young son and his wife get through this.
What words did you share with the family?
Ask Chris. So, I'm sorry, repeat the question.
What words did you share with his family?
We tried to give them hope. We know it's a long road. Everybody's in shock and disbelief, and it's going to take some time to process everything that just occurred. And like I said, it's just going to take some time. And the family, they're having to process things. It's taking forever, and they're going to get back on track, and they're going to do the right thing, and they're going to see this thing through and hopefully get some justice for AJ.
It's not over by any means. This family will never.
Talk about the emotion of these 3 trials in the last 7 years. As attorney, as now friends with the family, this must be a lot to process. Can you shed some light on that for us?
It's difficult. When we try cases like this, we don't sleep, we don't eat. We're constantly worried about upcoming witnesses and evidence and strategy. And the months before, we're getting everything together. So it is the most difficult thing I've done in my career in terms of being a lawyer. So to have this result after 7 years is a tough pill to swallow, but we will not ever stop fighting for AJ. I've said this many times. We'll be here always for him and his family as strong as they could be, and they will not stop fighting for AJ. They will continue through an appeal and whatever comes after that.
Any idea whether it was a different outcome this time? Last time it seemed like things were tipping in favor of the defense.
So every trial is different. Every jury is different. It's impossible to predict from a last trial what's going to happen in the next trial. So It's just the risk involved in jury trials. Anything can happen. There are different people. And the other thing is the prosecution knew everything that we were going to do. And, you know, it's very difficult to do it twice. It's almost impossible to do it 3 times.
Do you regret turning off the lights in the courtroom?
Absolutely not. That whole deal was silly.
Do you think the new evidence had an impact in this case?
That evidence is ridiculous. AJ filed a federal lawsuit. They will pursue that aggressively. And we'll let that play out as well. We're done. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about that evidence. Once again, blood spatter on LJ's clothing, which I'm trying to understand, why would that be introduced 7 years later? Was it not introduced? Why was it not introduced before? Once again, there was some information about police tape covering the stains. So as I said, where on the shirt were these stains? Were they so minute that nobody noticed them? Detectives, crime scene technicians, and the person who got the evidence in the lab, because you're talking about transference of different people touching the item and should have visual of the item. Once again, detectives, crime scene technicians, and the person in the lab. 1 person, 2 people, 3, how many people exacted information from the shirt at the lab? It's very baffling information. Allegations against the Houston Police Department that they tampered with the shirt and planted blood from a dead man onto the shirt. So you want us to believe that detectives walked into the scene and said, who all was here, took account, conspired together or alone that LJ was the suspect, and to seal a conviction, we're going to now plant evidence. But this is where it's tricky. If it wasn't introduced trial 1, trial 2, how was it now introduced trial 3? Stay woke now. A detective or more walked into the scene and collaborated to set up this boy, 16 years of age, and touched blood and put it onto his shirt, but yet it was never introduced trial 1 or trial 2. Only trial number 3. Make it make sense. This is where I'm very confused. And this department has a lot of flack pertaining to evidence tampering. And I will bring you that information as well after this commentary is played.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Rick Tototo there, the lead defense attorney with Chris Collings, his co-counsel, after a losing effort. Rick Tototo not often on the losing side of a case. He's had a lot of big wins in his career here in Harris County.
And I've had the privilege of knowing him since he was a young prosecutor, and the privilege of trying the Ashley Benton case with him back in 2008 with a really good result. Rick's a good lawyer. I know that he's devastated, and he's going to do whatever he can.
He said it's not over yet, so he's filed that notice of appeal. Of course, we got to talk about the other side, the winning side in this case, and we want to hear from prosecutor John Jordan. He just got out of a press conference a few minutes ago.
Ryan and I just had the opportunity to talk to the 12 jurors and the 3 alternates. And all 15 were confident and very confident in their verdict. So Antonio Armstrong Jr. walked into this courthouse this morning as a defendant, and now he is a convicted capital murderer. This has taken a long time, and I think there has been a false narrative out in our community through an effort to shape a narrative that just wasn't true. This jury got all of the evidence, and they, I believe, are confident, as we have always been. The question has been, because Kim had asked Ryan and I, should you try him again? And our answer was yes, because we believed he killed his parents.
Once
and he
again,
killed 2 people.
2 people.
So what better reason to try him again? And the fact that he was youthful
Yes.
makes them even that more dangerous.
Exactly. Let's think about what this district attorney has said. 2 people are dead. Yes, we're going to keep trying him because 2 people are dead. Very true. And the fact that he's a young person makes it even worse. Exactly. So we're supposed to just give him a pass because he's young and not give him any time or prosecute him because there were hung juries or mistrials or however you want to word it. No, because if you have the propensity to kill 2 people who you are biologically related to, you will go out here and kill anybody on sight. They say the wrong thing to you, look at you, you won't have a problem killing him or her. And this family should be leery of him. You don't want to believe that he did this, but let's say he did it. Okay? Let's go with the latter. He killed his parents. You have been walking around hugging and kissing and supporting a 2-time killer. And I don't think they realize that. This is how you know people are delusional and blind by relation, blood. What I don't want to think about. Well, we're in an evil world. You don't want to think that your son, daughter created this monster, but they did. Too many things about that night don't add up. With the 911 call, no rush to, out of breath or panting or crying or fear out of this man. Describing an alleged person running out of the house with a mask on, thinks it's a black guy in a mask. No fear, which is strange. Somebody has just killed your parents. You don't hear fear out of him on the 911 call. And there's a point where he's actually talking to himself on the 911 call. And he ain't thinking about what he's saying. Okay? Because that's what happens when you have not fully plotted the crime out. You didn't plan it thoroughly. You are slumbering with a murderer. No different than this woman marrying him and making a baby with him. She's crazy too. That's what these people need to realize. You have been slumbering and supporting a murderer. The lawyers, yes, as Terry says in the chat, they're crazy. And that's even more baffling when you hear them speak of him and his character. You don't know him from a can of paint. His family didn't know him. And you other relatives don't know him. The brothers and sisters don't know him. This wife, she doesn't know him. The neighbors, you don't know LJ Armstrong. And you will hear this from many people who have slumbered and been entangled with serial killers, rapists, defrauders. I thought I knew him. I thought I knew her. I trusted him, her with my child, my money, my accounts, whatever the situation is, because we are flawed humans. And many of us have probably thought about murdering a person. How I could get away with it. Could I get away with it? And maybe not wanting to actually kill a person, but maybe goes through your mind because you're listening to true crime stories and you sit to yourself and say, well, could I get away with it? How would I do it? But there's so many ways to get caught. 50 ways to kill a person, 100 ways to get caught. Because we are in a digital age now, and it's too many cameras to catch you. Doorbell cameras. The lights have cameras in them, just you driving through them. And you could be asked a question. Hey, what time did you leave last night? Did you go out last night? And you could say, oh no, I never left the house, but there's a camera that has your fucking car tag on it. How are you going to explain that if you told the detectives, I never left the house? I didn't go anywhere last night. Or I was in by 2 a.m. But there's a camera showing your car riding around at 3 a.m. You see where I'm going? Because that's not what you were expecting because you didn't plan it thoroughly. And most killers use their phones because you have to remember, if I'm going to discard a body, which is a true sign of a person related to the victim or knows the victim, you don't want to be out here stranded dumping a body. Stay woke. So you need your phone. As we learned with the Dinkins trial. 1 or 2 phones he had access to. He gets stuck in the ditch dumping this 10-year-old female's body. his son's sister. Voila. Phone pings him at the pond, number one. Number two, you have an eyewitness who helped him get the car out of the ditch. Stay woke. Phone pinging at stores, Walmart, seen on camera in the same town where you dumped the body. But you didn't plan that. You were too excited to kill a kid, have your way sexually with a kid, and then kill her. Back and forth going to the house. Never understood that. Would have been easier to just assault the child and kill the child where you assaulted her. Would that make sense? Because somebody said, oh, well, I think he realized when he got her back to the apartment, she was going to talk. That made no sense to me. You've already done time in prison because a child talked. Or there was evidence that you assaulted a child. So you should have known round 2, round 3, or however many times you assaulted a child, there's a chance that the child could talk. Stay woke, everybody. LJ didn't plan this thoroughly. And the jury saw through that. Round 3.
Useful makes them even that more dangerous.
All right, that is John Jordan, the lead prosecutor and successful today. A.J. Armstrong sentenced to life in prison. He's eligible for parole after 40 years. He is in custody tonight. We're going to take a break here on KPRC2 and come back right after this message.
So life with the possibility of parole after 40 years, because everybody's been stressing the 40 years as if he's actually going to be guaranteed the 40 years. Well, we know Houston is in the state of Texas. Texas has a lot of strict laws pertaining to murder, capital murder. It becomes capital murder depending on the heinousness of the crimes. And that's what constitutes capital murder, for those who did not know this. The man killed 2 people at the same time, and he wasn't under duress. He wasn't facing, how can I say this? It wasn't self-defense. They weren't beating him up, hurting him, for him to say, I got to go get a gun and kill them. And another thing that's interesting about this case, besides this new evidence of blood spatter, evidence that wasn't entered in that the father was dealing with some dirty dealings with some other outside partners or business people. I lost my train of thought. There was something else I wanted to mention. It's not about the gun, not the blood spatter. It's something else. It'll come to me. He didn't plan this story. Because as I said, blood spatter, his attorney saying his older brother did it. Then you have him mentioning somebody ran out of the house in a mask. His 911 call where he has no empathy, no fear, no screaming, no crying, no moaning. Text messages between he and the mother where you can see she's disappointed in her child, which probably led to him plotting this crime. Shooting in the floor where they have holes in the ceiling, which makes no sense how the parents didn't notice this. This may have been a trial run, but then we find out that no, this was done, I believe, at the time of the murders, which is also strange because, as what I just said, wouldn't parents notice a hole in the ceiling? So he did this the same night that he killed the parents. And you didn't think somebody wasn't going to notice holes in the ceiling and your room is above the parents' room? Just to show you how stupid this kid is. So now we're supposed to believe what? You didn't shoot the holes in the floor. Your brother did it, but your brother had moved out weeks beforehand. The brother also has a alibi that he was in the house apartment with his girlfriend. And once again, no breaking and entering, no ADT movement of anyone bypassing the system to go in the house or to exit the house. But yet, the defense says this was a faulty ADT system. Very interesting.
Right after this message.
Did the jury get it right? Was evidence planted by the Houston Police Department to set up this young man? But as I said, this crime was committed 7 years ago. Why wasn't that evidence entered into both trials if these dirty detectives attempted to set him up allegedly? Why was it only introduced trial number 3? And how did they find evidence on a shirt? All this is very strange information pertaining to the state side and the defense.
Welcome back to KPRC 2 News at 6 and a very special edition of The Bench, our
7 years ago
TV-ish show, and a special reason for it, and that is the conviction, capital murder conviction of 23-year-old A.J. Armstrong, who at the time of these crimes was 16 years old. He is the young man who is accused of killing both his mother and father. His father, a former NFL player, and really both of them were pillars of the community. And sort of his arrest was news of the day back in 2016 and has continued to be so. Today, sentenced to life in prison. After 40 years, he has the opportunity to possibly be paroled. So he would be 63-something years old. We want to talk about the reaction from what happened today in court, of course, and also the differences we saw in this, the third trial, the first two ending in hung juries. What were the key differences? Why did it swing the other way this time?
Obviously, we had that, we had that key blood spatter. This didn't happen in the last trial because that happened last month. That's the reason for the delay here. But with all of that, John Jordan, during their press conference, he said the jurors said they didn't even talk about the blood. That was out of their mind.
They didn't seem interested.
They said that by that point, they already had it in their head that AJ did this. They pointed out to the 911 call, the interview with Armstrong by detectives that night. That's what the jurors told prosecutors today. That was the reasons why they all said.
So they all chose yay, convict. Weren't concerned about the blood spatter, but the 911 call. See, everything has a start. And what do I always tell you all, if you want to get to the truth of a story, start at the beginning of the story. I don't know why nobody ever figures that out. Your truth is at the beginning because this is where you spin the yarn. And the yarn was spun from LJ calling 911 to say his parents were murdered. And don't you find it odd, peculiar, shameful, despicable that a man and a woman are brutally shot in their sleep and their child doesn't even open the door to search the room to see if they need help, they're still breathing, administer any type of aid, stay woke. This is why I told you. This is interesting that this is 3 trials, and on trial 3, 12 members said, hell yeah, he killed his parents. Why couldn't these other people agree that something was odd with the 911 call? There's no rush. That's why you know he did it. He's just walking through the house talking as if he's talking to a friend. Oh, yeah, you want to meet at the mall at 6 o'clock? Okay, well, I'll meet you at the entrance near the Baskin Robbins. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's how he's talking to the dispatch. Who is talking like that and their parents have just been murdered? Please, hurry, get here. I got to find my sister. I got to get to my sister too because I'm worried. I saw a man. He was running out with a mask on. Oh my God, please hurry. I'm scared to walk through the house, but I got to get my sister out of here. He is talking as if he's calling somebody to meet him at the fucking mall. And at some point during this reenactment phone call, his voice is a little bit lower, like he's trying to whisper. But you can tell there's no empathy inside of this human, alleged human. There's no fear that he could be walking into a killer, another killer, because who's to say there's not more than one shooter? But it's the way he's describing the scene. He doesn't have fear. And that leads me to believe he is the suspect. Because if you loved your parents as you said you did, you would have had fear in that 911 call. When he talks about his relationship with his parents, he describes, we all got along. I got along well with this one and that one and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just like the teacher standing in front of the classroom handing out candy on Halloween. Now, Johnny, here's a sucker. Now, Mary, here's your Reese cup. That's how he's talking to the detectives. When they know it's bullshit. Because as someone has said about this case, and this is well put, LJ and others failed to realize that detectives are not just on the job as of that day that they went to the crime scene. There are seasoned professionals weighing in on the crime. And even if you have a detective that's only been a detective 2 years, 3 years, they still will consort with a sergeant and another official on the case. They don't just give them the case and then they let them have their way with the case, and nobody is ever watching and listening to the reports and the information being brought in, the testimony from people during interrogation. Other law officials are weighing in. That's why you have a detective, a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain, stay woke, a chief. It's their step. And detectives have a boss. And that boss is looking at all of the information from what was written down, witness statements, any type of evidentiary material, crime scene information, everything. So even if the detective ain't jiving with his partner or her partner, there's still a boss that is watching and surveying the information that the detectives are gathering. And that's where LJ fucked up. There's always a head knocker. And that's what he doesn't realize. And I don't think he realizes it even today, now that he's 2 weeks into the prison system. And he's a nice looking young man who's now in the big leagues with the big dogs. And there's no more pretty girls love making to a woman. That's all out the window now. No more having to prove yourself to this one and that one. That's over with now. He's still got to now hold that facade with the big dogs. And we will see how he fares in the prison system. Because there is no guarantee that 40 years from now, if we're all alive, a parole board will say, we're going to let him out. Because you have to remember, there's still going to be somebody that's going to go to the parole board 40 years from now to say, leave his ass in there. Hell no, we don't want him out here. And who will it be? Very interesting.
Guilty in this case. Another thing that's different with the props. With the props that was used, the staircase, the makeshift bed, and the mannequins.
Much more theatrical, the presentation. You think that makes a difference, Brian? That resonates?
And I think it does, and I love the theatrical reference, because my take about trials is that they're like plays. You can have one critic who thinks West Side Story's a hit and somebody else who thinks it's a bomb. I think John Jordan and Ryan Trask had a much greater comfort level with this jury than they did the second time around. I know because I've spoken to John, and John's position was they never really felt like the second jury was in a position to return a guilty verdict. And I know they had a jury selection consultant this time. I believe that's huge. And it underscores the fact that trials are won or lost long before the first witness ever hits the witness stand, Joel.
I want to get my notes real quick, and they're right here, and I know it's awkward that I'm doing this on TV, but I wrote down 4 things because I did attend the DA's press conference. We don't have time for what we're saying, but I just want to key on one thing. Apparently, this jury, they made flip charts. They had it so organized in there while they were deliberating. They had sort of X's and O's, and they were looking at every little piece and nook and cranny. Another aspect we have to talk about on this busy day is the federal civil rights lawsuit. There was a press conference earlier today. I think that was at HPD's property room, was it? And we're going to go now to Rochelle Turner, who has more on sort of the other separate legal battle that's going on here. Rochelle?
And Joel, this morning, some of A.J. Armstrong's family stood outside of this building with civil rights attorney Randall Cattleman alleging that the Houston Police Department planted evidence in this case. Now, the Houston Police Department has a history of allegedly planting evidence in other high-profile cases. Back in 2019, Regina Nicholas and Dennis Tuttle were shot and killed by Houston police officers during a botched raid. Several weeks later, Houston police admitted that the raid was built on lies. Today, I spoke to the attorney representing the Nicholas family. He says they had problems with evidence back then.
Wow.
One of them was years later, we found evidence that they didn't recover at the scene. The other part of it, obviously, is the potential that evidence was planted, which the DA's office and other law enforcement have confirmed was repeatedly done by Sergeant Goins, along with his, when he set out his squad for many years planning evidence.
And that former Houston police officer was acquitted, or rather he was charged with 2 counts of murder. Now, attorney Michael says that this could be a huge problem when detectives don't collect and process evidence at scenes because it just makes it difficult for the community to trust them. As for A.J. Armstrong, attorney Randall Cattleman and his family says they will continue to fight for A.J. Reporting live from downtown, I'm Rochelle Turner, KPRC 2 News.
All right. So is the family using past deviances by the Houston Police Department to aid in their fight to get this man freed and appeal from this guilty verdict? Well, they've got a habit of planting evidence anyway. So let's go ahead and use that to our advantage because we don't believe our golden boy killed his parents. Could it be just the truth? He did kill his parents, and yes, Houston Police Department has issues with a dirty sergeant and other dirty cops. Because in the end, the cops are dirty or were dirty, whoever was in cahoots with this sergeant before AJ even decided to kill his family. This is bad. See, this is the one thing about the world. People can take a bad situation such as these dirty cops, dirty sergeant, and use it to their advantage in this case of a person who 9 times out of 10 did kill his parents. That the two really don't have to have anything to do with one another, but let's take advantage of the fact that they have done it and they were working at the time that he killed his parents. So let's ask the ultimate question. Was Sergeant Goins an active sergeant at the time of this crime, and was he or any of his detectives working this specific case? Thank you for joining me. Let's get to the gist of the dirty cops, since that has now been mentioned. Thank you all so much for joining me on this wonderful Tuesday in the high 10. God bless all of you. Please stay safe this week. I will post a movie of the week. And please take the polls on my community page for this said crime. Did he kill his parents, LJ? Mercy, mercy me. Once again, prayers to the school teacher in Maryland who has been found dismembered, and they have a suspect in custody for her murder. Her name is Miriam. Very, very scary situation. It's too many stories. And also Yashua Robinson from California, the 12-year-old who died during gym class. Prayers to him and justice for the nasty teacher who made him run and led to his death in extreme heat. ABC13.com is the source. A.J. Armstrong lawsuit against City of Houston emerges as jurors deliberate his fate in third trial. This was uploaded August 15th. Even after A.J. Armstrong's time in a criminal courtroom concludes, he may have more matters to handle on the civil side of the law and in a federal courtroom. Now, this was uploaded before the verdict. According to a lawsuit filed in federal court Tuesday afternoon and obtained by Eyewitness News, Armstrong is suing the city of Houston for allegedly violating his civil rights. He alleges one or more people inside the Houston Police Department planted his father's blood or particle on a T-shirt admitted as evidence in his third capital murder trial. I've never seen a federal lawsuit filed on the day of closing argument, Steve Shellis, an attorney who was not involved in either the criminal or civil cases, said. It's just too big of a coincidence. There must be some intent behind it. Armstrong's defense team questioned the presence of blood on Armstrong's clothing during the seventh day of trial. Celestina Rossi, a blood spatter and crime scene reconstruction expert, testified that she discovered the blood on June 2nd, 2023, days before Armstrong's trial was supposed to start, when she went to the HPD's property to view the bloody pillows collected from Antonio Sr. and Don Armstrong's bed. Rossi told the jury that when she was given the list of all of the Armstrong evidence while in the police property room, she noticed Armstrong's T-shirt, pants, and sandals had been collected. Rossi said when she laid out Armstrong's gray T-shirt, she immediately saw what appeared to be an almost reddish-brown stain touching the bottom of the police sticker. Upon further testing of the blood, Courtney Head with the Houston Forensic Science Center confirmed the blood is very likely from Antonio Armstrong Sr. Rossi testified that when she received the shirt, part of the police name tag appeared to be peeling, revealing the first stain. She conceded on the stand that the stain could be from cross-contamination. So let's ask that question again. Was this cross-contamination? Somebody touched something else and it got on the shirt, or the stain was there all the time and nobody noticed it during trial number 1 and trial number 2. Just found this very unbelievable. In the lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern Division of Texas, the gray T-shirt AJ was wearing at the time of the murders was tested by the Houston Forensic Science Center, and no DNA was found. Repeat. At the time of the murders, the shirt that he was wearing, AJ, nothing was found. No DNA. Additionally, the suit stated officers testified no blood was found on AJ when he was arrested. I cannot believe on my title I have LJ. I meant to say AJ. Excuse me for the discrepancy, because I'm obviously got something else, another story mixed up with the same initials for the young boy that was drowned in Florida. Sorry about that, you guys. I'll change that on the title of this video. AJ, you say LJ. The suit further alleges that human action after the shirt was taken from AJ caused his father's blood particle to be there. Okay, so now we have to question that. If you are gathering information at the crime scene, how would it have gotten onto his shirt? Because when you're gathering clothes, shoes, you're putting it in a bag with gloves on, and then you seal it, and then it goes into a chain of command to somebody else. So how would I gather a sheet, a pillow from the parents versus whoever was taking the shirt and sandals off of him? Because I'm assuming you'll be processing the crime scene first, and you wouldn't be wearing the same gloves, would you? So make it make sense. I grab a pillow, I grab a sheet, and then I also go over to him and then grab his shirt with the same bloody gloves on. Is that what happened for it to be cross-contamination? Help me understand. Because that makes no sense that you would have that protocol to be touching different items with the same bloody gloves on. The lawsuit doesn't mention a specific monetary amount Armstrong seeks. None of his criminal case attorneys are representing him because, as you heard the attorney say in this audio, he will not be representing AJ for the appeal. He does not do appeals. Instead, Houston attorney Randall Callanan is taking up the civil case, which he will discuss during a news conference set for Wednesday morning, according to a release. Calls and texts to Callanan went unanswered Tuesday night. Mary Benton, communications director for Mayor Sylvester Turner's office, told ABC 13 that she was not sure whether the city had been officially notified about the lawsuit. Once we receive details, the city will respond first in court and not in the media, she added in a text message to ABC 13. For more on this story, follow Jessica Willie on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And now I learned Twitter is now X, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. I don't even really want to even be involved with Twitter because it's like, okay, now we're changing names. Everybody's changing their names of their platforms. It is what it is. ABC 13 is the source. So AJ Armstrong is now suing the city of Houston for planting evidence onto his shirt. Do you believe evidence was planted? That's all I'm going to ask. Do you believe it? And also I wanted to mention Dr. Phil has decided to retire from daytime TV. He's been on for 21 seasons, got his first start joining Oprah Winfrey as a guest. And now, 20 plus years later, Dr. Phil is hanging up his hat as a TV talk show host. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm trying to see if I can get more information pertaining to the planting of the evidence, because I believe I had gathered some information about that. Please go into my library. I have extensive videos pertaining to true crime and breaking news and other various topics. So please check out my library. There's also a story I want you all to look into if you are interested. A man by the name of Purvis Payne was on death row, and they said he'll be eligible for parole in 4 years. And he killed, I believe it was a woman and some children. And I think that's very interesting that they would even bring him up for parole. It's very scary information. I thought I had gathered some information about this young man. Pertaining to the evidence that they planted. They planted in another crime. Very disturbing. So now we have to ask ourselves, who was working the case when he allegedly killed his parents? If we're to believe he killed his parents. Well, I don't see it here. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate it. While you're sitting here and waiting on me to get this information, please go to my community page and take the said polls pertaining to the poll pertaining to this crime. Because some of you are a bit confused, I think, as to if he did it or not. And please check out KPRC's Channel 2 News, Houston News, pertaining to AJ. Sinner or Saint, extended edition. I was going to play it during this live, but I was already running into 20 minutes of talking about other things before I even got started on this story, and it's like a 54-minute video. But it'll give you a general idea of the case and what happened, the state side versus the defense, evidential material brought in, not brought in, new information of the blood spatter, 3 trials later, other possible suspects and other people who could have been involved in murdering the family. You're entitled to your opinion if you believe he did this or not. Let's go over the text messages between AJ and his family. This is ABC 13 Houston, and this was uploaded 4 years ago. Was he disgusted with his parents because they were disgusted with him and his failing grades and not doing what he's supposed to do. And he decided, well, I'll just kill them because they're mad at me. They're angry with me. I'm not going to be able to be taken care of by them. Get all the luxuries of doing whatever I wanted.
Private text messages to his mom and dad were shown and read to a jury. Strangers who will ultimately decide, was AJ just a normal kid acting out or a 16-year-old killer sick of taking heat from his parents? Texts from October through May, up to 2 months before the murders. It shows a frustrated, exhausted pair of parents, Dawn and Antonio, telling AJ over and over he's a, quote, disappointment, that they're tired of his lying, his spending money, his bad grades. In April, Antonio Sr. texted, AJ, I'm sick of getting reports about silly crap you are doing. Keep screwing up and doing silly things like speed through the park. I'm trading your car in for one that matches your maturity. Last morning. This text from mom in June. We gave you all and the best we had. We wanted the best for you. We provided the best education. Bought you a great car to celebrate you. We tried to be open with you. And what was important to you and all you do is lie to us. Scheme behind our backs. Prosecutors showed data from AJ's iPad 24 hours before the murders. AJ's attorneys say it shows the teen acting normal.
He's having text messages with his girlfriend. I love you. I miss you, sweetie. All that 16-year-old mushy stuff. And then all of a sudden, he executes his parents. Nonsense.
Two ADT alarm experts testified about the security system, that it had been set hours before Dawn and Antonio were shot. Prosecutors say that shows no one broke in, that the killer was on the inside.
We're not necessarily claiming that the alarm system didn't work. The alarm system
that's what I was thinking.
As it should have. The problem is that there are holes in the alarm system, even when it functions.
So ADT is saying, we're not saying that it didn't have problems, but nobody is moving in or out after it's been set. Nobody is tripping the alarm to go off as far as somebody breaking in or running out for the alarm to go off with the door opening. It is also alleged that the girl child, the younger sister, set the alarm. And I think that was very noble of them to own that, hey, yes, the alarm probably had problems, but on that night, nobody broke into our knowledge and alerted us that somebody was entering the house and tripped the alarm or exiting the house. Very potent information. But once again, it depends on your interpretation of the information because some of the family members believe the ADT system was faulty and it doesn't prove that AJ and his sister were the only ones in the house that night.
Holes in the alarm system, even when it functions like it's supposed to function. And I'm slowly in the middle of pointing that out. And tomorrow, when we get our expert on, we'll fully flush it out.
Was he spoiled? Was he overindulged by his parents? As you hear Miss Terry speak, Terry, can you speak on IG for a second to give information pertaining to this case or not? I do believe he was spoiled. I believe they overindulged their kid, and some will argue what is overindulging. You entitled to your interpretation of that. Is it the fact that they were too kind to their son, giving him privileges, giving him a nice car for his birthday, or him being their son, and he was just ungrateful? And we've seen that with many kids who have luxuries that other children have not been afforded the opportunity to have, and he just was ungrateful. He felt entitled. Is that what happened with AJ and his family members, his parents? That they were too kind to him, and he was just an ungrateful kid, a kid who was empty inside, a sociopath, and he murdered his parents because he knew the ball had fallen, dropped, and he was going to probably get an regular old car that any other kid probably would have been grateful to get. But it wasn't good enough. They're getting ready to take away my nice car. Now people are going to be looking at me driving to school. I want you all to think about that for a minute because image is everything. A lot of people thrive on how they look and are perceived by the public. So imagine you're driving a nice Mustang or a nice BMW to school, and then you're returning in, let's say, a late model Honda or Buick. whatever the brand is. Damn, man, what happened to that BMW? Hey, what happened to that Mustang? Oh, my parents got mad. Or he probably would lie. He's not going to tell them, oh, I've been fucking up and they downgraded my car. Oh, it's in the shop. And this was a spare car we had in the garage and I'm just using it till my car gets fixed. Do you understand what I'm saying? One of the fans has decided they want to do an interview with the Queen. They are trying to get a master's degree. Miss Dawn for her criminology course, and she's asked the Queen to do an interview for her course. And I will be glad to do an interview. It's fine with me. We'll see how that goes. Terry. I need you to message me so you can give your opinion pertaining to this case right quick. So I don't have to drop the StreamYard. Call me on IG, sweetie. Because I don't even see you in the search bar here for some reason. Let me go down here and look at this one here. See if you're down here. Because once you erase a person's conversation, you have to get the right IG profile to pull up to in order to, and I don't even see you in here. You're not even in the suggestions for some reason. Thank you all so much for joining me. 16 viewing. Spread this content. Like, share, subscribe. Share it to other platforms. This live stream. Thank you so very much. Did AJ Armstrong murder his parents 7 years ago? He has had 3 trials. On the 3rd trial, which was 2 weeks ago, he was found guilty by 12 members of society that said, yes, he did indeed kill his parents. He has received life with the possibility of parole after serving 40 years in prison. Should he have been given also the opportunity to be paroled? But as I said, there's a new law, Supreme Court law, that says children cannot be given a life sentence for committing murder. Just send a message, Terry. So like you're having difficulty because I don't see anything. Very interesting story. And as you heard in this commentary, the jury was not concerned, this last jury, of the blood spatter information. The 911 call is what got them. Amazing. 3 different trials, and each jury weighed in differently. Let's hear from his family members. Let you hear from the grandmother. She's been very vocal about him. I'm going to play bits and pieces of her interview. Because Terry, I don't know what's going on with Terry. I'm going to try not to drop the StreamYard. Hold on one second.
There were only 4 people in the home that we know of, the parents and the 2 children.
My best friend fighting for his life.
Newly published court documents state Armstrong Jr. planned and practiced the murder of his parents.
Then I had AJ that I had to find out who was taking care of him, what was going on, because I found out they took him into custody. Don and Antonio would have wanted me to have taken care of AJ.
Antonio Armstrong Jr. always said an intruder killed his parents, not him.
You don't have to trust us. You can trust Antonio Sr., who called him a liar and a schemer. But he's still 16. And that crime scene just speaks like a 16-year-old did it.
They said they didn't see any broken windows, no forced entries at the door, allowing them to believe that whoever committed this crime was inside the home.
Therein lies the mystery here. Who shot whom and why?
We, the jury, find the defendant, Antonio Armstrong Jr., guilty of capital murder. It is now the order of this court that you be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 40 calendar years. You'll be transported by the sheriff to that institution where you will serve out the remainder of life, and you'll get credit for all of your back time. Good luck to you, sir.
Good luck to you, sir.
How do you
Imagine
feel right
that.
now?
It's absolutely devastating. AJ is grown up with us. As I said in my closing, over the last 7 years, we've seen him grown up from a 16-year-old to a young man, father, husband. It's devastating.
First, I can see your eyes. It has been a rough 7 years.
When I got the phone call, I
Hello,
was
Kiki.
on I-10, headed back home, almost in Lafayette.
And you must have been just struck by that.
I couldn't believe it.
You've talked to AJ, you say, every single day.
I keep encouraging him. We read scriptures. It's a lot.
Yeah, I would imagine it's a lot.
He misses his son. That's the hardest part for him, his son and his wife, especially his son. Since the trial, the day of the verdict, it's like we relived what happened 7 years ago, this time just worse.
Just because there's not gunshot residue, just because there's not fingerprints, the reality is we rarely have that kind of stuff. Reality is the evidence was always strong. The challenge has always been is people can't get their head around how someone so young
exactly.
and so handsome with the support of his family could have done what he did.
Exactly.
And, a big piece of evidence, and it happened twice, is in the 911 call.
The 911 call, he's very calm. It's a 16-minute call, and maybe it may be the most calm 911 I've ever heard in my career.
Exactly.
Your name?
Because remember in the 911 he says, I heard 2 gunshots.
Any medical attention needed?
I heard 3 shots, so I don't really know. I went down the stairs, saw a crack in my parents' door, and I immediately called y'all.
In your parents' bedroom? Did it sound like a handgun, rifle, or shotgun?
He's whispering basically into the phone with the dispatch, and he is saying, I'm not good with guns, but I guess I don't know, 15 or something like that. I know my dad has a gun. Once again, what you're hearing in this 911 call is what I've already discussed during this live stream. There is no rush to get out of here. There's no hollering. There's no screaming. There's no crying. Somebody has killed my parents. I'm scared. I've got to find my sister, get to my sister. You hear no rush to vacate the premises. No empathy for the deaths or parents dying in the room. You hear that the door is cracked. He is saying in a very low voice, the door is never open. The door is always closed. But once again, where's the empathy? Where's the rush to get out of there? Where's the, oh my God, somebody just shot my parents. Somebody just broke in here. Oh, I'm looking through the crack. The door's never open. Oh my God, I can see they're lying on the bed. They're bloody. Oh my God, I got to get out of here. You hear nothing but a ho-hum monotone person speaking to the dispatch. Why? Because as the state said, he didn't need to look in the room because he already knew that they were dead because he's the one that shot them dead. There's no rush to get out of the house because they're dead. I did this. I'm the orchestrator. And on this fateful night, A.J. Armstrong considered himself the Alpha and Omega. But we have learned, for those who believe in the scripture, that there is only one Alpha and Omega, and that is God. He says when, he says who, he says how, not us. But because we are honoring and we are ill and vile as creatures, we have decided to become God. And many people have a God-like complex. And they decide the who, the when, the where, the why, the circumstances to end someone's life.
Five hours later, to homicide, he says, heard gunshots.
And I was making my way down the stairs, and that's when I heard the gunshots. When I got like 4 or 5 stairs down, and I like looked.
How many you heard?
I mean, I think I heard 2, but it may have been 3. I'm not really like 100% positive, but I know it's 2 or 3.
And then I saw the masked man running from my parents' bedroom, and then I called on.
Let's go back to that. 1 second. Hold on. Wait.
Phone charging slowly. This is the fastest.
Sorry about that. They had a commercial in between that. He said he's making his way down the stairs, which is strange. Why would you be up moving around in the first place? Hold on, everybody.
5 stairs down, and I like looked.
How many you heard?
I mean, I think I heard 2, but it may have been 3. I'm not really like 100% positive, but I know it's 2 or 3.
And then I saw the masked man
on the stairs, and that's when I.
Just because there's not gunshot residue, just because there's not fingerprints, the reality is we rarely have that kind of stuff.
Unpack documents and everything.
The evidence was
for
always
this
strong.
Video.
The challenge has always been is people can't get their head around how someone so young and so handsome with the support of his family could have done what he did.
Audio you couldn't hear during the trial, all the audio.
A big piece of evidence, and it happened twice, is in the 911 call.
The 911 call, he's very calm. It's a 16-minute call, and it may be the most calm 911 I've ever heard in my career.
And your name?
Agent.
Do you remember in the 911 he says, I heard 2 gunshots.
Any medical attention needed?
I heard gunshots. I don't really know.
I went down the stairs, saw a crack in my parents' door, and I immediately called y'all.
In your parents' bedroom?
Okay, so he hears gunshots. He goes downstairs, sees that the door is cracked to their room, and realizes they need medical attention. This still makes no sense why a human being would not open the door to go inside and interrogate the situation. Why not? But as the state has said, he didn't go in because he already knew that they were dead.
Does it sound like a handgun, rifle, or shotgun?
Five hours later, to homicide, he says, heard gunshots.
And I was making my way down the stairs, and that's when I heard the gunshots. When I got like 4 or 5 stairs down, and I like looked.
How many you heard? How many you heard?
I mean, I think I heard 2, but it may have been 3. I'm not really like 100% positive, but I know it's 2 or 3.
And then I saw the masked man running from a parent's bedroom, and then I called 911.
And like I saw someone like coming out, so I just took off back upstairs. They had it was like a mask, and like you could only see the eyes and the mouth, but he looked like a black guy, but I'm not like 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure it was an African American, and like I'd say like 6 feet maybe, somewhere around there. I couldn't give you like an age range. I didn't really like get to see his face or anything like that.
So for him to go to that, to all of a sudden, oh, there was a masked man in my house and I need to go get my sister, to me and John, I think too, was one of the biggest inconsistencies.
Well, that would be the first words out of your mouth. There's a masked man in my house. Please come help my sister and I. And so there's a reason in 3 trials the defense never even touched the subject, because there's no logical explanation for leaving that out.
Why, when AJ walked out of that door and he said somebody was in the house, the officer that he's told that to has never come forth? His sister heard it, another officer heard it, but then he can't testify. He testified in the first trial, but he can't testify in other trials because it's hearsay.
So is it true that during the interrogation and talking to people on 911 that he did say he saw a guy leaving? Well, you hear the audio right here. He is saying he saw a mask on the 911 call, but I think later, days later, he mentioned it in interrogation. So that's 2 separate situations, because we have learned that what people say on the phone to somebody or dispatch may not be what they told detectives face to face at the time of the crime and or during interrogation.
In the 911, he's confident to go to the door. First, he's confident to go get his sister and then let law enforcement in, as opposed to saying, tell them to come into the house. There's a masked man in the house.
So here we go.
So it is really just overwhelming that even folks who support him will never be able to answer that question.
So you heard the grandmother saying, well, another officer did hear him say that. And then she says, oh, but he didn't come forth. Well, he's not going to come forth if he didn't hear it. Or you're saying what? There are improprieties by the detectives who were on the scene at the time of the murder, after the murder. So did a cop detective hear him say, while they all were in this house, that yes, there was somebody else here. I saw somebody leave. Because this is what he's saying to the dispatch. And naturally, there's no cops there at the time he's doing the 911 call. So what is the truth? Did he mention when the cops got there, he saw a masked man?
In addition, in order to go get his sister to that house somehow he knows is alive, he has to bypass his parents' bedroom and never look in. He didn't look in because he didn't have to look in because he had already killed his parents.
They're asking you to step out of the house.
So I get my sister?
Hold on.
So I need to leave the house?
Yes.
What about my little sister?
Let me ask.
Lord have mercy, what a mess.
And she's on the 2nd floor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what's the sequence of this right here of him telling Noonie to get up? Because she's telling him, I got to check to see if you need to go get your sister. The next part of this audio, you hear him talking to the sister, trying to wake her up. So I need to know the sequence. Did he go ahead in the room to get the sister up before the lady answered that, hey, my boss is saying, yeah, go get your sister up? Or he just took it upon himself to go get his sister? Very interesting.
Sarah, I need you to get up. Come with me. Come on, come with me. You gotta go outside.
We gotta go outside, he says. We gotta go outside. Imagine doing all this role playing, knowing you just murdered your parents, and now you're calling 911, talking like you're getting ready to invite a friend to the mall, and then go wake up your sister when you know all along you the one killed your parents, and now everybody's getting ready to fall out, start fussing, cussing, cursing over these dead people, and you are the only one not crying, not screaming, not shouting, not passing out, not hyperventilating over the deaths of your parents. Why not? Because as you hear the state say, he didn't go in the room because he already knew they were dead. I ain't got to go check on them because I know they're dead because I'm the one that killed them. I ain't crying and moaning and screaming and shouting because I'm the one that killed them. I'm empty. I'm a lonely, miserable vessel. I killed them for my own selfish reasons. It is what it is. And I also like to know what the fuck was he thinking, what kind of life you're going to have now, because guess what? You may have killed your parents, but you're still going to have somebody over you now who you may not like their rules and regulations. And there are going to be people bickering and arguing and trying to divide up furniture, the house, the cars, all that comes with dead people. Ding, 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 ding. So did the people even get along when it was time to divide up the house? See, we ain't hearing nothing about that because that's not really what people want to hear. Some of us anyway. Some of us may want to hear. But what really happened with the family in dividing up the estate? Leaving what to whom? Who was in charge of raising the children once these people died? Who got what? Who got the house? Was the house paid for or not paid for? One mortgage, two mortgages? Were they in debt? Did they owe money? See, I like to know all that because this kid thinking he's going to get a free ride with these dead parents. I ain't got to listen to them no more. But who was going to be in charge of you? Because you're killing these people. They're the ones making all the money to take care of you. Now people are getting ready to be trying to divide up these people's estate. Your life wasn't going to be as gravy as you thought because they're gone. You forgot your mom and daddy were the money makers. Grandma and grandpa probably didn't have the money that your mom and daddy had. See, this is why you know this boy is an utter fool and he is a sociopath. Because he hasn't planned this out, such as what's going to happen to me and my sister after I've killed my parents. What kind of life am I going to have? You thought your life was jacked up because they want to take away a fancy car. Imagine people arguing over your estate and the money of your estate of your parents, and you ain't getting to drive a damn thing. Oh, I want my car back. Hey, I need this car. And somebody telling you, no, we got to send the car back. See, you don't even know if the cars were paid in full. Because we notice when people get money, they don't pay for stuff in full for some crazy reason. They owe notes. But see, this is what happens when you're a child and you're not thinking properly about anything.
I'm the one that never look in. He didn't look in because he didn't have to look in because he had already killed his parents.
1 second. Let's see what Miss Terry has to say. Yes, you're not using your name for your IG, ma'am. Yeah, he was dumb. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the Vault XL. This is pertaining to AJ Armstrong. He's been convicted of murdering his parents. Life with the chance of parole after 40 years.
Hello?
Miss Terry, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Miss Angie. How are you?
Fine. Very nice profile picture there, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, very pretty. Very pretty. All right, let's get down to the business. Did he kill his parents or not?
I believe so, Miss Angie. I don't care. Honey, I believe he killed his parents. I believe it was premeditated. Like the messages were saying, you know, the back and forth with the cell phone with the mother and the father and the son.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got fed up with it.
Mm-hmm.
He got tired
wait, slow
of
down,
it,
slow down,
and
slow
I
down.
think he planned it.
Okay, slow down. He got fed up with what?
Fed up with them getting on him, staying on him. You know how teenagers get.
Okay.
You know how they get ignorant. They don't want to listen.
Okay.
They want to be rebellious.
So have you followed this story,
they
Terry?
don't want to hear it. Huh?
Did you follow the story?
Yeah.
Okay. So you believe he killed his parents. You believe the motive is because he got tired of them ragging on him. But do you believe he thought about the after effect of who's going to raise him and what his life was really going to be like after?
Oh, no.
Of course not.
No. Mm-mm. I don't think so. Mm-mm. They never think about that kind of stuff. They never think about what's going to happen in the end.
In the end.
Never think about it. Yeah, he didn't think it out thoroughly. He just wanted to get rid of his parents.
Okay, do you believe that his brother could have done it? The older brother who had just moved out a few weeks before?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Because they said he was schizophrenic. He had hallucinations. He even deteriorated worse after the death of his mother and stepfather. Well, naturally he would because that was his mother and stepfather. So you don't think the brother did it?
No.
You don't think an outside person did it that had dirty business with the father?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
And just like you said, Miss Angie, like the evidence, the blood stuff. I don't believe, ain't no way in hell no blood was planted on that shirt.
Well, why do you think it wasn't introduced at the other two trials?
That's what I was thinking about that too. I don't know why it wasn't entered, as evidence. I don't understand that. That don't sound right to me.
Well, they said the lady said the tape was covering where the stains were. So maybe they were very small. But blood spatter could have only gotten on that shirt logically if you were in the room and you're the one that pulled the trigger.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I do believe that faces were covered or something. If I'm not mistaken, the heads were covered. And they said usually that's a sign of a person who cannot face what they have done. And 9 times out of 10, that's somebody that knows the victims.
Exactly.
Knew the victims.
That's right.
Yeah, we've seen that in a lot of cases. Right. Heads and faces were covered. Blankets put over the victim.
Because he couldn't face what he did. He couldn't face it. He couldn't face what he did, what he was going to do, and then he did it. And then the waking up the sister, hollering, "You got to get up. You got to get out."
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you wonder.
And she even testified, and she even testified that there was faulty issues with the ADT as well in court.
Yes, she did. Yep.
Very interesting. Very, very
And I don't understand. I don't like the part where the family is all in denial. They're all upset and gaga goo goo. I don't want to hear it. They in denial about this boy. And like you said, they don't know him. Okay? His parents knew him. But them other folk in that family, they don't.
But I don't think the parents knew I don't think the parents knew that he was going to kill him. I don't think they knew that.
Oh no, not that part. No. But they knew he was up to no good. I mean, did you?
Well, he was a liar, is what they called him. The mother has text messages where she said, "You're a liar. He keeps lying all the time." So obviously, he was having problems in school, and maybe he wasn't telling the truth about what was going on with his grades.
Yes, and then the car stuff. Oh my goodness, what trade the cards in and this and that, like he's somewhere making big time money and this and that. And like you said, he didn't think about the fact who was going to care for them, after the parents were gone.
Wait, slow down. He was doing what with the car?
Trading the cars and trying to be big time, showing off.
How could he trade a car in with no money? That don't make no sense.
Well, I heard that at one point that he was trading his car. He had a car and he traded it in to get a bigger and better model than what he had so that he could be showing off, styling and profiling.
Yeah. But that makes no sense because you already know he has no credit at 16 years of age. So how is he going to go to a car dealer and trade the car in? He would have had to show ID that he was grown enough. And if he had an ID or driver license, it would show that he was 16. Not a 37-year-old.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah. I ain't think about that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, but he was doing lying and all kinds of stuff though.
Well, I heard the parents said they were going to downgrade, because she says it in the text. Maybe we'll downgrade your car since you can't be truthful about, the information you've been giving us. We'll downgrade your car to something that you can handle, is what she says in the text message.
Yeah.
Since he was speeding or whatever he was doing.
Yes.
Well, I think it's sad
He didn't like that.
that a child this will be their last resort. That you would think you've been getting in trouble, you've been doing all these things on your own, and then once you're caught with your hand in the cookie jar, you say to yourself, my remedy for this situation is to kill my parents.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm telling you, he has to be a cold-blooded monster to really do something like that. That's sad. I can't fathom it.
And that's my point. Who's going to know that if the child's going to kill them? Who would know that?
Nobody. You would never think it. No parent thinks nothing like that.
And that's the scary part about him, as the state prosecutor says.
Exactly.
His youth, him being youthful and concocting this crime, he's a very dangerous person. Which means he didn't need to be walking around here all this time to be dating and marrying and making a baby. How do you feel about him being married and now having a toddler child?
Honey, I've seen it right on TV. It's right crazy. Hi, baby. It's right crazy because I seen him with his wife and a little mixed baby, a little boy. They got a little boy, and I think that's crazy. How can you, like you said earlier, how can you be with a woman, procreate, get married, procreate, have a child, knowing deep down what you did to your own parents?
How could she? Because he don't have any feelings. So he's emulating a human being. How could she be with a man knowing he's been alleged of killing his parents and going to trial back and forth every other year, going to trial?
Exactly.
There's something wrong with her. Why would you want him?
Honey, I'm trying to tell you.
There's one thing to be with somebody that shows out, acts a fool, gets in trouble with the law, clowns, is violent. Okay, now you're talking about a person who has been going to court for killing their parents. What would possess you to even be interested in a man who has been accused of killing his parents?
I'm trying to tell you, well, she's crazy too. She ain't wrapped too tight upstairs either.
Yeah, because you now have a baby with the bloodline.
Exactly. I mean, I can't fathom her. I mean, where's her brain at? I mean, I couldn't be with somebody like that, knowing that. And this crap happened over 7 years ago, but you went ahead and got yourself involved. Oh, they found him not guilty. So, it's all right. He all right. He didn't kill his parents. You know how them kind of people are.
Wow.
And honey just went ahead and went on with the program, honey.
Right.
Right. She ain't grinning and happy now, I bet you that. No, she broke down in the courtroom, honey.
Yeah. Well, I like to know what he's been doing these past couple of years for income, and where was he living? Was he living on his own? Was he still living in that house? What happened to the house that the kids were raised in? See, I ask all those questions because, like I said, when it comes to death, this is when people show up their true color. So while everybody's going on and on about supporting him, how was the house divided up? Who took care of him and his sister because they were under the age of 18? Did somebody stay in the house to raise the kids? Did the parents owe a note on the house? What happened to the parents' cars? What happened to the parents' businesses? Yeah. I like to know all of that.
Yeah, I would like to know that too, because when I seen a shot of him and his wife and the baby, it was like a reporter knocked on their door, and it looked like it was small, like an apartment or something.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure. Yeah, it looked like it was a small little apartment or whatever, but there were gee and cuckooing and ga. Yeah, both of them were grinning. He was holding his son.
Yeah.
Just a grinning. Yeah.
So he didn't have a exuberant life then if he was living in an apartment.
Exactly.
Because all the monies and personal effects should have gone to him, considering he would have been the oldest of the children.
Right. And now look at him.
Right.
Now look at him.
And who was paying the lawyers? Who were paying the lawyers over the past 2-3 trials? So you have to ask all that.
Exactly.
Or did he have a public defender each trial?
I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't know how, and I just can't get over the family, though. They're going to try to appeal this case, hollering that the cops were crooked.
Yeah.
Like you said, Miss Angie, back in the day, that's different. They caught the bad, the chief or the sergeant, whoever the hell, and then the ones that were with him. That was way before, like you said, before he even killed his parents. So that ain't got a daggone thing to do with what's going on.
Yeah.
After he killed his parents and stuff. So I don't even know how.
It's a blood
that's
spatter.
fly,
He has a civil suit against them pertaining to the blood spatter that was introduced in this last trial. That's what it's about.
Yeah, and you remember what that man said? The reporter said, he got a 5% chance of that flying in court.
Oh, the appeal. Yes, it's two separate things. They filed an appeal on the closing argument, the day of closing arguments. But he also has a civil suit. No. Yeah, I mean they filed a civil suit on the day of closing arguments. So you're talking about two separate situations. A new lawyer is going to have to file the appeal, number one. And number two, he's already got an attorney for the civil suit against the city of Houston for the planning of the evidence.
Right.
Do you think he'll win the civil suit against the city of Houston?
No.
Okay.
Nope. I don't think so. I really don't.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Interesting.
No.
Now,
so, I mean,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, but I think that's just great. And you know what else I can't fathom? The uncle with his smart stuff, getting smart, right in front of the family, cussing and all this kind of stuff. Boy, I tell you, it's sad, but people are really like that.
Yeah.
They
believe in him. They believe in him. But this happens with a lot of family, friends, community members. They don't want to believe the worst in a person because they haven't had that experience with him or her. So it's like, well, I ain't had that experience with them being violent. So why am I going to believe they killed their family or their sister or their child you see it all the time. And even when they get suspects who admit that they killed a person or persons, people still will support them even when the person's admitted that they killed them. Such as with the Watts family, his mother and father and sister support him, and he's admitted to killing his wife and children. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's good to me. That's sick right by itself.
Yeah,
that's sick. That is really sick. What is wrong with these people?
Well,
I mean, I can't fathom it.
But this is why we have crime that still goes unsolved, because I've told people this 1,000 times. Just because you don't know of the suspect killing a person, detectives don't have somebody admitting that they killed a person. It doesn't mean that he or she has not told somebody that they have killed somebody. So now I'm going to ask this question. Has he confessed to somebody in secrecy that he did kill his family? What if we find out later he's told his wife that he's killed his parents?
See, I was thinking about that too, Miss Angie. I said to myself, now, Terry, out of all the people, who do you think he would tell? So, I don't really think he told his wife, but I tell you what, I guarantee he's been in jail on and off or whatever. I don't know. I think he's told somebody either in jail. I don't think he's told his wife.
Well, if he told somebody in jail, they would have already brought them forward in court to testify.
Oh yeah, they would have told them. Huh?
Yeah, they would have told right up there. I think he's a good actor. I think he's good at holding his composure, which shows that 9 times out of 10 he's a psychopath. So he's not going to trip up, or hasn't tripped up thus far. But maybe somewhere down the road in his conversation, it'll allude to the fact that yes, he killed his parents.
He actually did it. I'm surprised he ain't having nightmares. But you know what? Psychopaths, Miss Angie, they're like that. It's like they have no feeling, no sense of remorse, no nothing. They're just like stone cold people. They don't have a heart. They don't care.
Well, and that's what makes you wonder what type of parents he had that could produce this type of human being.
Yes. But then, like I said, honey, spoiled, rotten. They gave him the best of everything. And then he showed out.
So let's just say they did give him the best of everything. Would he have still been a killer? You see what I'm saying? What if he just had a regular car and never had a fancy car and still got upset, pissed off about something and still fell out with his parents and still killed them anyway?
Yeah, that's true too. Because we've heard of cases like that too. The ones that don't have much,
yeah,
or in the hood or whatever, and
innately,
then you got the ones.
He's innately tainted. Fancy car, failing grades or not, there's something wrong with him.
It is something wrong with him. It is, and it's sad. That's sad.
Okay.
And now look, they got a son, got a nerve, have a child of his own, honey.
Yeah, and now the child won't have no father.
No.
And then that's even worse, a child growing up with a father who's a murderer, even if he was free, walking around.
Exactly. And killed his grandparents.
I don't know what kind of life these kids thought they were going to have, even if he was free. Because you have to think that with a mindset like that at 16, he would not be reformed. And the fact that he's walking around married with a child, anything would come his way that he didn't like, he would still have the propensity to go kill a person. Exact violence against another human being. That's a problem, just like the man said, the state attorney said. Because he's young, that's a problem. That he would think to kill his own parents at 16 years of age.
At 16 now. At 16. But look, Miss Angie, look at all these crazy kids that are running around 12, 13, 14, hijacking people's cars, killing people. Oh my gosh. And they're getting younger and younger.
Yeah.
And then they come out with these laws.
Yeah. New law
they're
now.
young. They don't know when you're young.
They have an immature brain.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't care. If you old enough to commit carjackings, robbing, stealing, killing, stabbing, whatever, riding over people.
Yeah.
It was a girl, 16. She rode over her boyfriend and his best friend because she got mad at her boyfriend. This was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrible out here.
Well, it's just like the young black boy, his three kids in Florida, I think it's Florida, killed him because of the guy's now dating the boy's ex, which my thing is, if you're dating the ex, why do you need to kill the ex? And the fact that he was able to talk two girls into going along with him to kill the boy outside the apartment building, it's just, I just couldn't understand. How do you talk others into doing this? One thing for you to plot the death of somebody, but how do you talk other people into doing it? So now we got children coercing children, and then we also have adults coercing adults.
Exactly.
It's baffling to me.
It's terrible, but you know what it is? The root of all evil, Satan himself. Honey, his time is near, and he's doing everything under the sun. I'm telling you. And people are so evil and wicked. I tell you, Miss Angie, I don't even like going out anywhere anymore. I order a lot of crap offline. I have people bring it to me. It's just not safe. You ain't even safe in your own damn house.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I always tell myself that I'm not exempt from being a victim. And I always tell myself that, living on my own, it doesn't matter if you're in an apartment, a condo, a house, a trailer. Anybody can infiltrate your house and hurt you. You could be going to the grocery store and be hurt. You can be getting an altercation with a person, a neighbor or friend or family member. The day the devil decides he wants to use a person, you can be anywhere.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter anymore. And it could be anybody, just like you said.
Yes.
Even your own family. But it's in Revelations, it says it. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I tell you, I just pray because I feel sorry for my grandkids, and I just got a newest one. He's a 2-month. It's just, I don't know what to say.
Well, congratulations on the new grandbaby.
Thank you, Miss Angie. Okay. But it's just, oh my goodness, honey, it's just horrible. And here I turned 61 last October. No, I turned 60 last October. I'll be 61 next month.
Okay.
And it's just, this world is just getting worse. It's just, and it's getting any better.
No.
I keep telling people it's not going to get any better. Do you read your Bible? It says it in Revelations. Everything that's going on is in Revelation.
Yes.
And it's not going to get any better. I'm telling you. So I don't know, but I thank God every day that I'm here, that I get to enjoy my grandkids while I'm here, because I've never seen this world so tore up with these crazy people just running around, just doing anything.
Yeah.
And then the youth
Well, a lot of the
worse.
people are just lonely inside. We have a lot of insecure people. That's why you have to remember, adults are, all the things that go on in adults' mind stems from childhood and how they were treated and their idealisms were formed. So now you got a wayward child, then who becomes now a wayward adult, and they just go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So they may not have committed crimes as a child, but now they're adult, they act out. I mean, go in various ways.
That's terrible.
They could wait and commit the crimes when they're grown, or they could be getting in trouble while they're a child. Now they're adult, they just go full-fledged, full throttle.
And don't care.
Yeah, unhinged. Yeah.
Just unhinged and
Yeah.
don't care. And I don't like some of these parents that egg their kids on. I was looking at a story last night about a woman. She has two daughters. One of the daughters shot and killed one of their so-called girlfriends because they said that she disrespected their grandmother.
Okay.
So the mother egged them on and told them to meet the girl at the park.
Mm-hmm.
Honey, they shot her and two of her friends right up at the park. Shot the girl. Boy, I tell you, it's 16 years old now, and the mothers were. They didn't arrest her, but yet she was right there with them.
Right. Wow.
And all they got was what? I think 30 years between the both. No, one got 25 years, and the other one got 15 years, and five years probation each.
Okay.
That's all. What?
Okay.
I mean, I get this justice system. I'm telling you, Miss Aunt, where is the justice in this world?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like people just get a plea deal on pow. You out there before you know it, and you don't even do all the time that they give you.
Yeah. Well, as you see, the children issue now is going to be a problem because now kids can say, well, they've passed a law that I can get off for killing somebody and I won't have to do a whole lot of time for murdering my parents, my friend, a stranger. And that to me, you've given them a free pass now, saying they don't have the mental capacity at their age to reason, which we know that's bullshit.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and finish playing the rest of this commentary. Okay. Anything else you want to say before I check out of here?
That would be it, Miss Annie.
Okay.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Yes, and honey, I'm gonna try to keep up with you.
Okay. Kids, I'll be bringing some more content later. All right. Then.
You take care.
You too.
I'm gonna finish listening.
Okay. Have a good day. Okay. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.
All right, everybody. That's Miss Terry. She's one of the fans that follows the Vault XL, formerly Everyday Shenanigans. Thank you all so much for joining me. Let's finish this commentary, a little bit of this commentary pertaining to the 911 call and the family members and grandmother speaking out pertaining to the innocence of AJ Armstrong.
They're asking you to step out of the house.
Do I get my sister?
Hold on.
I need to leave the house.
Yes.
What about my little sister?
Let me ask. And she's on the second floor?
Yeah. Tara, you gotta get up. Come on, you gotta get up. Come on. Tara, I need you to get up. Tara, I need you to get up. Come with me. Come with me. You gotta go outside. I was up in the bathroom and I heard something else. You gotta go outside and figure out how to get. Come on, just grab my hand and stay behind me. Please just stay there. I'm the one that called. Tara, come on.
He was caught in a few lies, though.
Absolutely. Tell me who doesn't lie when they're scared. Okay? You have adults lie when they're scared. That's what causes people to lie. Fear. AJ was scared. when he was talking to those officers. You know, this is a 16-year-old kid.
When you look up, there's a bullet hole in the ceiling that comes from the loft, which is your bedroom. And it comes through the floor from the loft, from your room upstairs.
Yeah,
where your room
on
is.
the third floor.
Yeah,
there's a bullet hole.
And then on the floor, there's an actual bullet that was actually fired.
Wait, how long has that been there?
Well, that's why we're talking to you, because there's fresh sheetrock on the floor.
Right.
So, and that's kind of what we're getting at. There's things out there that we're trying to figure out how this has happened. You know, if
so now you get information of the bullet hole in the floor, from his floor to which would be the ceiling of the parents' bedroom. If there's fresh sheetrock, that means the parents would have noticed the sheetrocks at some point on their carpeting or flooring in their room, and would be addressing that with the son to say, here, there's a hole. How did that hole get there? What put the hole there? Did you fire a weapon, and which weapon or what weapon would it be? And then they'd have to use deduction. It had to come from a weapon he had access to and or a weapon in our house. So now you have to ask, did he use a weapon that belonged to his father? And why didn't the father have that weapon locked up? You see, there are 1,000 questions you can ask with this crime. Did he use his own father's weapon? Why was the weapon put up in a lockbox? How would he have gotten access to a gun? Number one. Number two, did the gun used in the homicides belong to the father? And why was it not, number three, locked up if it was his gun? He lied about using the gun a time before, but then he retracted that statement to say, yeah, I did use it, showing it off to my friend, and it went off. But they're combating that second version to, well, there's fresh sheetrock, so you couldn't have done it a time before. And this is what people do when they are being interrogated. When they see that they can't explain evidence or scenario, they have to come up with another version. And that's what he did in this interrogation with police about the gun shot through the floor.
If there's 2 gunshots or 4 gunshots,
right?
How do we have one that's coming from the room upstairs, and then we've got other ones in there?
I can explain the gun from the room upstairs. It was like 2, 3. It was like, I think it was 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. Like me and one of my friends was like playing around, and they were about to leave, and he was like, "Hey, well, not really. He was like me. I was like, "Hey, like, have you ever shot a gun before?" And they were like, "Nah, I've never done it." And I was like, "You want me to show you how to?" And like, I like went and checked the 3 places, and the gun was on my dad's bed, and I like laid the pillow. I laid my pillow, and then like a blanket over and a blanket under it, thinking like that would stop it, but I guess it did not stop it.
Yeah.
And I truly think that when he fired it through the floor of his room, I don't think he knew it went down to the second floor. I don't think he knew the bullet went through the floor. I think he truly believed, like he said, that it stopped it. So when they encounter and confront him with that, I don't think he had an answer prepared.
Now, see, and that kind of goes back to what we were saying just a minute ago. You know, because a few minutes ago you said that you haven't seen it, you haven't shot it since you were a kid, and then now we kind of give you a little more, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute. So, you know,
I understand.
We don't want to keep getting deeper into this because there's more. I mean, that's the thing is, and ultimately.
So the question still remains: did he shoot the gun that night before murdering his parents, or he shot it in the floor, testing the gun, but minus the friend being in the room? Is there testimony of someone saying, yeah, I was in the room when he shot it off months before or weeks before, but then he cleans it up and says, you know, he used a pillow and a this to show the friend that how to use a gun. So when was it? Weeks before, with the eyewitness in his room, or did he shoot it that night before he murdered his parents? And if he had shot weeks before with the friend or without a friend, why didn't the parents notice the hole in the ceiling, sheetrock in their room falling to the floor, And where were they at the time he would have shot in the floor? At work, gone, what? Because this would have been, I think, summertime. So naturally, the parents possibly were out on a job, if we're to believe he did it weeks before. But it still doesn't explain why they wouldn't have noticed sheetrock in their floor from the hole in the ceiling. So now we have to ask that question. How much sheetrock was actually in the floor from the bullet hole, and how big was the bullet hole? See, there's 1,000 questions. Will you get the answer? Now, 3 trials later, I don't know.
To this, because there's more. I mean, if that's the thing, is, and ultimately, you know, if the gun was fired tonight, you know, again, the GSR test is going to show.
Exactly.
So to say that you didn't, or it was fired,
I didn't fire it tonight. No. Last time I fired it was like 2-3 weeks ago, and apparently I put a. I guess my parents just never saw that, because I mean that was a while ago.
Yeah. But ultimately, that's what I'm saying. Even if you wash your hands, whatever you have, it's still going to show.
Right.
Okay. So that's why I'm saying is, you know,
that was like 3 weeks ago. You think?
No. You fired a gun tonight.
His whole reasoning for firing a weapon is because his friend had never heard a weapon fired. And so when they circle back in the interview to try and find out who that friend is, he then says, oh, he had left. Well, I'm confused because I thought that's why you fired the weapon in the first place. And the point is, that friend doesn't exist.
Wow, doesn't exist.
If that friend did exist, they would have called him to the stand and said it was a couple of weeks before the murders.
I don't care how many times he lied. He was scared.
I can tell you now, there's like nothing that will come back that it's on me. There will be no gunpowder. There's my fingerprints on, nothing like that will come back on me. I had nothing to do with this.
Hey, but you understand where I'm coming from.
I understand where you come from. Because when I explained it to my brother, he thought the exact same thing. So he thought there was something, like there's something missing. But I understand where you're coming from.
You had no physical evidence linking him to.
So he even explained to his brother, I guess, the scenario or whatever happened that night. And the brother is saying something's missing. The same one that the defense attorney tried to put the murders on. The older brother, the schizophrenic brother, the brother with the mental problems, hallucinations, issues, known issues. That same alleged crazy brother, and pardon the wording, he's telling him allegedly there's something missing from the story. So imagine this guy not knowing he's going to be thrown into the loop of this debacle of the dead parents as a suspect too, so his brother can get off through the first 2 trials. He has no idea what's going to be in store for him as well, how he's going to be thrown up as a suspect to try to clear his own brother. But he's now explaining to the brother this time, oh yeah, something ain't right about this story, homeboy. Something ain't right about what you're saying. Because the brother who's allegedly not mentally stable knew this younger brother killed their parents. And we also hear this brother was the black sheep of the family, felt as an outsider, didn't feel like he fit in because naturally his father is not the dead man. He had his own separate father. So AJ and the sister have the same mom and dad, but the older brother has a different father, and it has been alleged that would have been his motive to kill the parents, that he was an outsider, black sheep, didn't fit in, blah, blah, blah. Maybe he was an outsider. Maybe he felt as an outsider. Maybe he was treated different by the mother and the father. I don't know. But the courts say this AJ character is the suspect, is the murderer. And it took 3 times to go before a judicial process that 12 members of a jury found him guilty 2 weeks ago of capital murder.
Physical evidence linking him to the crime.
And it was. I mean, the circumstantial evidence was huge. You asked us before, what's the one thing that was most powerful? There isn't just one thing. It's a conglomerate of a bunch of things. But those circumstances are so strong.
Recordings just got
back. All right. Sorry about that intermission. Okay. Evidence was strong. Well, 12 members said so. In all 3 trials, Harris County prosecutors relied on Armstrong's home alarm system to show no one entered or left the home the night of the murders.
My question is, are they going to take that tack, which they really sort of keyed in on, at least in 2022, and I think the first trial too, back in 19, was that idea that, look, this home was sealed. The burglar alarm was on. The doors and windows weren't breached, although there's a little bit of, depending on your point of view on that. Are they going to take that tack this time?
Oh yeah, they have to. To me, it's just their strongest piece of evidence is that alarm system was never tripped the entire night. So if it was never tripped, that means no one came in and no one left out. That is their strongest piece of evidence.
Strongest piece of evidence. No one broke into this home and no one left out. Why on this fateful night of all these discrepancies with ADT shows no one coming in, breaching this house, nor exiting the house. What are the odds?
Just as much as the prosecution is arguing, hey, this alarm system was never tripped, nothing could have come in or out, no one coming in or out, the defense is going to say, yeah, but it's not foolproof.
Both ADT and Alarm.com testified that they didn't perform any testing at all on the alarm equipment at the Armstrong's residence. They didn't perform any kind of testing on the accuracy of the records contained in their documentation. They did nothing. They just blindly say, hey, here's our records. You have to believe them. This young man right here deserves far more than to have his future determined based on faulty, unreliable, error-ridden records from an alarm company that can't stand up to their own records, their own accuracy.
Let's talk about something.
Now, this man speaking as a defense attorney was friends with the decedent, AJ Sr. And now you will see in this audio, if you go to the community page to see this said video, which is in the queue and on my community page, he is sitting alongside the biological mother of the dead man, AJ Sr. And they are in support of AJ not being the suspect in the brutal slayings of Mr. AJ Sr. and Miss Dawn. Very interesting. Your defense attorney was friends with your father, parents, and the man is supporting you as not being the suspect in the brutal killings. Imagine that. And also you hear him in his commentary here, speaking his commentary, he wanted to take care of this boy child who has murdered his friend and the wife. I want you to think about that. This boy had so much support from family members, this Caucasian man who's a defense attorney, who later becomes his defense attorney through a trial, and believed of his innocence. And now sits in this interview alongside the grandmother, speaking of the boy's innocence. They're sitting side by side. You'll hear it now. Thank you for joining me.
Let's talk about some things. Talk about the alarm system. Attorney Chris Collins showed evidence that ADT records said one thing, Alarm.com's record said another thing, and not only that, help me unless there's something wrong with my mind. How does a 12-year-old girl get woken up and all she sees is police officers? And an officer asks her about that alarm system. She says it's finicky. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
When you understand the alarm system and the records, it narrows it down to the number of people who could have committed this crime in the entire world to 2 people. And it was him or it was his sister. And then I kind of in trial 3 looked at that first and then worked my way back and said, okay, what do we know about him? What do we know about his sister? And then it became very clear as to who committed the crime.
Alarm information. They have an expert. You have an expert. You're showing faults. They're trying to show that these faults don't mean anything. The house was sealed up.
Free gift.
Sorry about that. So what are the odds on this fateful night of 2 people being brutally killed? The system doesn't work once again. It's faulty. It's finicky. The daughter says it's finicky. The daughter doesn't hear gunshots. Interesting as well, because she's asleep allegedly. So if this boy went in the room and killed his parents, why did the sister not hear? Were the victims covered with pillows to muffle the gunshots? I believe so. That's why she slept through the killings. And the reason why she didn't hear an alarm sound is because nobody broke in the house and no perpetrator fled out of the house to sound the alarm. Just she and her brother, AJ, were the only 2, I believe, in the house on this fateful night. And we do know that people can sleep through alarms, storms, thunder, lightning, because when you're in deep sleep, you won't hear anything. That's why it's called deep sleep. And deep sleep is not the whole time that you slept, 6 hours, 7, 8. This is what has been reported by sleep specialists. There's only a short window that you're actually in deep sleep. So this is why sometimes you can't hear a TV turn on, somebody enter the room, footsteps, phone ring. And that's the most interesting thing. And I can say that there's truth to that. Because there's times I'm asleep, I can actually wake up from the phone ringing. And then there's other times somebody has called on Messenger or on the phone, and I did not hear the phone ring. Now I'll explain that. So there has to be some truth to how long you're actually in deep sleep. Stay woke, everybody. Very interesting.
Sealed up. Do you feel like you had the right experts?
So how I answer that is the way we prepared for trial 3 was based on trial 1 and 2, the things that we did and we know that worked. Then we got into trial and they hired another expert, and the first expert in the second trial said he changed his testimony. So how do we prepare for that?
We found out in between trial 2 and trial 3 how much Jason DaCosta from Alarm.com really knew. We flew him down to Houston and we met with him and we spent hours with him. And after that, we walked away from that meeting saying, we got it, because the alarm system was working.
The Alarm.com as VP of the organization comes, and I think he helped prosecutors a lot. They had a board which showed all of the goings and happenings of the Armstrong home. He said their home was extremely active, and then prosecutors used that to kind of narrow the times to show the jurors that this alarm system worked flawlessly. The defense came back and showed them a few points where there were issues with the alarm system.
So when an expert testifies under oath in trial number 2 and says, we agree there was 77 errors, and then trial number 3, we don't know he's going to say this, he says, oh, that wasn't right, I was wrong about that. It seems desperate. It seems like they're trying to get the expert that fits their case. They knew that was a problem, and they found someone else to say, well,
we've learned with testimonies pertaining to expert witnesses that a lot of them are paid to give commentary for trial, not necessarily this type of witness, the ADT witness, but experts such as people who are doing scientific information, anthropologists, so on and so forth. Each side will hire their own anthropologist or scientific whomever. They pay those witnesses. Now, the ADT guy, I won't say that he was paid because he's a part of the information relayed in the alarm system. But now they're saying he changed. The state is saying trial 3, he changed. And why did he change? I don't know. Because maybe more information came out that said the system was working. It may have had some flukes along the way. But on that night, nothing shows that the house was breached and nothing shows that someone left out. But I also learned during this trial that it shows movement from the defendant, that somebody was moving around on the floors. So that would show you that ADT was working properly. Because in the end, whether you believe AJ killed his parents or not, somebody was on that second floor murdering the two victims. So ADT says, yes, somebody was on the second floor. Now put that on paper. So ADT had to have been working, because the one part of ADT that was head on is that there was movement on the second floor. And if the parents are the only ones on the second floor or in the vicinity of where the sensors are saying there was movement, ADT got that part right. Always listen to the information.
Well, maybe that expert was wrong, but what I'm saying now is right.
You never bought the theory that the alarm system records weren't reliable, the 77 faults in 1 month?
I don't, because there isn't 77 faults in 1 month. The records were misinterpreted, my belief, based on taking two entries and just having the expert read it, and then the defense argue it without ever asking for the expert to explain it.
What we learned was that this alarm.com is a software for basically all of the alarm companies. So we just had the wrong person in the second trial, and we had that appropriate expert to properly explain the records. Now, people are not going to convict someone of capital murder based on alarm records. Now, it helps, and it's going to secure it, and they're going to feel good about it because the alarm records don't lie. Dawn told us that, right?
I'm going to stop here because there's about less than 47 minutes pertaining to this information. Feel free to go to my community board to get the extended version edition of this evidence room. AJ Armstrong, sinner or saint. KPRC 2 Houston News is the source. I'm going to wrap this up. As you hear the state attorney say, that wasn't going to be the only thing that would cause these 12 members of the jury to convict Mr. Armstrong of killing his parents. The blood spatter was also said by the witness, by the jury members. That wasn't what helped them make the decision to convict Mr. Armstrong. It was the 911 call. So you see, in each trial, it was possibly different things that made certain people believe he was innocent or guilty. You have commentary from the grandmother in this audio of her supporting him, and that it was normal for him to lie because he was fearful. Well, some would argue that and say, ma'am, if I'm innocent, I have no reason to lie about anything. I'm not going to lie because I'm nervous. I know I didn't do anything. I know I didn't see anything. I know I didn't conspire to kill my parents. I know I didn't kill these people. I didn't aid in the killing of my parents. Why would I be lying? This is the time when you would tell the truth. So this lets you know the grandmother is just as crazy as the damn grandson. And that there's something in this bloodline that is really off. And this is the father's mother speaking in this commentary, the dead man. Oh, it's normal for him to lie. He was nervous. He was fearful. Of what? He didn't do anything, remember? He just told you. Nothing's going to come back with my DNA linking me to the crime. You're not going to find nothing. He was adamant when he said that. And allegedly, they didn't find any evidence, physical, linking him to the crime. So I want you to think about that. Because if you planned that part out thoroughly, you knew nothing would come back until trial number 3, blood spatter on the shirt. And once again, do not know where that blood spatter was on the shirt. Allegedly, police tape was covering those said spots, later found by a scientist who was doing evidentiary testing when gathering the evidence for court. Why this went to trial number 3 and not mentioned in the other 2 trials, I do not know. Very strange. And this is where the civil suit comes in, where he's suing the state Houston Police Department that detectives planted evidence. Did they plant evidence in this trial of a dead man onto his shirt? I do not know. But what doesn't make sense is if they planted it assuming he was the killer, then why wasn't that information brought forward during the 2 trials? Because it should have been seen by somebody. And if we're all in cahoots conspiring to get this kid locked up, then that information should have been brought forward during the first 2 trials. So 3 trials, 3rd time found guilty, life with the possibility of parole after 40 years, which is still a slap on the wrist for killing 2 people, a capital crime in the state of Texas. Family members still supporting him, saying 12 members got it wrong. The state should have dropped trying to bring forward charges after trial 1, trial 2. He's now appealing his conviction, and once again, in a separate lawsuit, suing Houston Police Department for evidence tampering. Did 12 members of the jury get it right? And I will concur with them that the 911 call speaks volumes. And I do believe the ADT was also working. I'm going to go ahead and say that too. Because like I said before, I can't see these people paying ADT for a faulty system. What would be the point of me giving you my money every month? And I do not believe this system is working. And naturally, they had no idea that their child was going to murder them. Because in the end, it wouldn't matter about an ADT system or not. It was on, and the boy still killed his parents. And many people are going to believe he did it. Because he and his sister were the only 2 there. So what are your options? He did it or the sister did it. Older brother was living out of the apartment, had been gone for weeks, and he has an eyewitness that says he was in the apartment with her, which is his girlfriend, his alibi. And that same brother who was implicated as a suspect is also the one on the same night told him there's something off with your version and the circumstances. Of course, because that's probably the first thing that came to his mind, the alarm system. Nobody broke in, no windows, no doors. Jimmy, you and the sister are the only ones here. So if it wasn't breach coming in and going out, it just leaves you and her. So which one of you did it? Please take the poll on my community page pertaining to the murder of AJ Sr. and Miss Dawn. He still has support from family members, friends, this defense attorney who was a friend of his father's, which is very interesting. And he is still denying that he killed his parents. He is a father of a toddler child and also married, and is now in the prison system serving a life sentence for the murders of his parents. Did he kill his parents? I also mentioned demonstrations of the parents lying in the bed. Defense attorneys were saying, well, it wasn't the actual height of the bed, blah, blah, blah. But people like a demonstration. People like to be able to go to the crime scene. People like to be able to get a demonstration of bodies, where they lay as far as the bed, the floor, because it helps have a visual. And a lot of times when they use dummies, they try to have the actual weight of the dummies to match the victims. Illustration is key, and also convictions. Laying out the scene, what it looked like, besides evidence photos. And I'm sure the evidence photos were not nice. And that's one thing that's interesting about a suspect during trial. He or she will rarely look at the evidence photos for the obvious reasons, because they are the ones behind the carnage left behind. Why would I want to look at what I did, my handiwork? Very interesting information. Did AJ Armstrong murder his parents? Once again, 45% of you said yes. 10% of you said no. 45% of you said not sure out of 40 votes. That's my commentary for this afternoon. Sorry, the video is so winded today. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BigAngie129 Cash App, stickers and chats are always welcome during the live stream. Thank you, Ms. Terry, for your input on this trial. If you'd like to take the poll, please do so. Please take the other polls on my community page. Please comment below the videos of breaking news and various storylines. I will be back with more commentary. I'd like to talk to some of you about another subject matter pertaining to this Supreme Court decision of not trying children as adults for heinous crimes. Should there have been a ruling passed in favor of not giving children the death penalty and life? Also, information pertaining to Facebook and apps. Should parents have access to decide what their children can see and watch and participate with apps and things on social media? That's come up in the news as of late. And all the shenanigans pertaining to gay pride and parades and functions. A lot of state legislators are trying to block certain shows and activities pertaining to gay pride, should they have the right to say these events should not take place. A lot of things I'd like to discuss. May just have a show later tonight pertaining to just various topics. What's on your mind? What's bothering you? What's the latest in your area, your demographic? And we just go and talk about various subject matters, not really focus on one particular subject at hand. Once again, thank you, Ms. Terry, for joining me. You all have a wonderful week. Please take the polls on my community page and the poll pertaining to AJ Armstrong. Like, share, subscribe. Pass this information along to friends, family. Share this to other platforms. And continue to follow this network for breaking news and various subject matters and commentary. You have been listening to The Vault. Exhale.